Hey everyone, Brando here.
And Mike.
And we host the Game Addicts Podcast,
A show about modern and retro video games
that we play and collect.
Now, here's some vital information for you.
Our podcast is found on podcast services around the globe, such as iTunes,
Podbean,
Stitcher Radio,
and YouTube.
Check us out every Thursday for a new episode.
But wait,
there's more. If you pledge to the Journey into Comics Network Patreon, you get early access to the audio version of the show up to a week early.
So what are you waiting for?
It's time to level up and check out the Game Addicts Podcast today. The following is a Journey into Comics Network production.
Hey, this is Josh Richmond, and you are listening to the Voice of Survival podcast, exclusively on the Journey into Comics Network.
You're listening to the Voice of Survival podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Nate Phillips.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to episode 3 of the Voice of Survival podcast. As the intro said, I'm your host, Nate. Today I have a very special guest joining me, the host of the Game Addicts podcast, co-host to Journey into Comics and Journey into Wrestling, executive vice president to the Journey into Comics Network, my longtime friend, former band member, and really the architect of all things Journey into Comics at this point. Brando, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I'm happy you are here and to talk about it again hilariously. I'm glad it didn't say cool.
Exactly. And again, saying that's the first things that I ever said on Journey into Comics was, well, thank you. Happy to be here because of how much you built me up coming onto that. I was so nervous when we first started doing that. I didn't know what to say, so I just went, thank you. Wow. I'm genuinely touched.
I was not a conversationalist at that point. I mean, my podcasts were me talking to myself, and this was now I had to go into my mind and go, okay, so I'm talking to my friend, which is fine, but I'm doing it as if the whole world is listening.
Yeah, well, and I guess here's the thing with that is that you went into that mindset, but really you just need to be like, I'm just talking to my friend, and other people are going to hear it. Not let's try and mold what I say for other people. Let's just talk to my friend, and we eventually that's exactly what we did. And I always make the joke that our podcast is just us sitting down at band practice doing what we should have been doing. Or doing what we were doing instead of band practice, pissing off our drummer.
I think that was just years of us practicing to do this.
In a way.
Ultimately.
Well, because we would play a song, and then we would wait like a couple seconds, and then we would get wrapped up in a conversation, and then they would be ready to go, and we would just still be talking, and they would just be looking at us.
I think there's a lot of that today that we'll definitely get into with the band stuff, It's weird because to the listener's ear, they don't know that we've had a retake and had to go through some. We have a live studio guest today, Dick, chilling over there. I don't know if they can hear you, but if you yell "Hey," maybe they can hear you.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Okay, we'll see if that picks up. It might not pick up, but so Blaine showed up. We had to get resituated. So now, Brando, you were telling me about the first time we met, and it's really weird because this morning I was like, I've known Brando so long, I can't pinpoint when I first met you.
I know exactly.
And it's yes, please tell us.
I know exactly when it was because I was always aware of you, in a sense, like I knew who you were. I recognized your face. I put a name to the face because we had mutual friends. We had Preston, we had Jason. They knew you. They had classes with you throughout middle school and probably even grade school. I don't know if you guys had classes together.
Preston's my first friend.
He's my first friend.
Kindergarten.
Preschool.
Right. Oh, see, so you knew him a year probably before me, but
I think he did preschool twice because I think he did once, and then they're like, you know what, let's let him back for one more year because he was supposed to be a year ahead of us.
I do recall that, yeah, but he was in my kindergarten class with Mrs. Webb.
Okay.
And
were you in Maple?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was in John Greer for kindergarten.
See, and that's
Such a weird
total divergence at that point, because I think about that too. Like, how did I know so many people that knew you and not meet you until so late in the game?
I believe it was in 8th grade. It was 2000. Almost whopping 17 years ago at this point, and around this time of year as well.
Yeah.
That we're recording this. So happy 17th anniversary,
Brother.
Or friend-iversary, however you want to say
yeah.
that. But yeah, I got introduced to you through Jason, and it was around the time of the homecoming time, of course, in high school, the big football game and the dance. Well, our school also had like a parade. We had like the floats and all that kind of stuff, and then of course, no, the Sweet Corn Festival was before that.
No, well, yes, it was definitely before that. It was deeper into September that the homecoming.
Either deeper into September, or early October that we did homecoming,
because that was around the time they were getting their like middle of the season football game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our school was then 0-5 instead of just 0-0.
Yeah.
But ended up meeting you the first time, and I went to your house for the first time as well, because we met on what can only be described as really, really weirdly, because we got in. This is the year 2000. We were trading Beast Wars Transformer toys.
Yeah.
And Jason had got this set up where he was going to be making some trades with you.
I do remember. He had like a case for him of some sort, right?
He had some sort of thing with him.
Yeah.
But he got really big into it, so I got back into it as well, and we had like all these Transformers and toys. We were able to get Preston to give up his Optimal Optimus at one point. And you were saying again, this is where we stopped. We got to Transformers and we had to start over. But you ended up trading your Megatron. Now, there were like 3 different versions of Megatron in Beast Wars.
Yeah.
There was the original big Tyrannosaurus, and then there was the second smaller Tyrannosaurus with like the hover, like the hovercraft type.
Yeah, they did the metallics, right?
Yeah,
The second version was
Transmetals.
Transmetals, thank you.
And he had like the little roller skates on his feet.
Yes, and then the third one was the dragon form.
That was the Transmetal 2 dragon form, yeah. So you had that one, and you also, I don't remember if you had the Optimus surfboard type one, or
no, because I think
hoverboard.
in that trade I got that.
Did you get that?
I think that, yeah.
Because you had Cheetor Transmetal, and he wanted that so bad because it was the one with the jets.
Yep.
And that was like the whole point of it. And then somewhere along the lines, you also end up giving up Megatron. And I remember you telling us, like, we got to hurry up because my dad said I'm not supposed to have anybody over.
Well, you know how strict he is.
Yeah,
or was.
Well, so, yeah.
But it's weird to think about 8th grade being that moment in time with the 3 of us in that house.
Yeah, especially it would only just be a few years later that we would reconvene again, but this time it would be for the band, which is hilarious because then that is what eventually brought us back into actually like more common interaction, of course. But it was also classes. We actually had art class together.
Yep.
You were in a band project at the time.
Yeah.
And Jason and I and a friend named William, we were going to form a band. And over the summer, I believe that was the summer of 03, maybe.
Yeah, it would have been.
The summer of 03, we decided to start a band. And we were going to be playing guitar, bass, and drums, 3-piece.
Yep.
And only one of us actually had an instrument.
Jason. The guitar.
Then I ended up getting a guitar. And so, like, I was set. And then we just needed a guy to get the drums. Well, it never really happened for him. And I just remember you were in a project called Slide Elsewhere.
Yep.
I can only remember one other person that was supposed to be in that with you.
It was Mitch Langford,
yeah,
myself,
that's the
and then
person.
Andrew Hodge was the drummer.
Was he?
And Hodge, let me tell you something, Brando. Unbeknownst to me, to this day, he's still the best drummer I've ever played with.
Really?
That far ago. He was playing Tool on drums as a kid and understanding it because he was that dedicated to the drums.
That's cool.
And it was really bizarre because we would go to his house or we would go to Mitch's house and just, clunk out some Blink-182 tracks from Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. And
You were playing bass.
yeah, I was playing bass. I learned the whole album.
Did you have the Warlock bass?
Yes, I did.
You had that big, heavy-ass Warlock bass.
Oh, fuck yeah, I did. That was my first instrument, man.
And you were able to stand and play with that thing back
Yes.
then. Holy crap.
I was fucking dedicated, man.
Dude,
I got a job at McDonald's at 14 so I could have that fucking bass.
Dude, and then you put that white crap on it.
No, I put red on it. It was red. I did red pinstriping that like boxed in it. It almost looked
What's
like
that
the,
white little like paint you put on there? That little snow.
Oh, there was the one time, I do recall this, where I tried to do that like stone spray paint shit to make it look stone, but it just looked really fucking awful and bubbly. So I did eventually scrape it all the way off.
Did you?
And then I like did like a light spray paint of the Punisher skull on it because
Oh, I don't think I ever saw that.
it's actually back there. You
Oh,
can check
okay.
it out.
Maybe, watch, I go see it and I'll go, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, there's one thing that I really remember from that time because me and Jason were dreamers and we were conceptualists, and the name of the band comes from Jason, and he sort of borrowed it from a paintball company, right? Changed the spelling of it.
Totally.
I remember the three of us racking our brains in like Jason's kitchen. We had a couple of different ideas. We had like, I remember Osiris was one of them.
Snake Pit.
Snake Pit, and then we found out about Slash's Snake Pit.
Yep.
His much lesser known band where he just played Guns N' Roses tunes
Yeah.
and stuff. But of course we found out about that. And we're like, well, okay, well we need a name. And I remember like we had pretty much settled on Osiris. Like, okay, but that was like it was one of those settled, but where none of us were really like liking it that much. But it's the only one that we all sort of like
Agreed upon.
like if we have nothing else, let's go back to that. It was one of those things where of all the ideas, I was the only agreed upon. And then I remember me and William are sitting in Jason's living room while Jason's taking a shit. And then we're sitting there, and he just comes out and has a book in his hand and goes, DraXsiS! And we're like, huh? He goes, that's the name of the band, DraXsiS. I'm like, what is DraXsiS? He goes, I don't know.
I don't know.
But it's right here. I think it's a paintball company. I'm like, well, we can't use that. He goes, we could change the spelling of it. And I'm like, so then would you take, because I want to say it was like DraCKSUS.
Yes. Yeah. Or
DraXsiS.
or with a Y maybe?
Why I can't remember DraXsiS. So we're trying to like find out a way that we're going to be able to do it. And so like Drax is like, well, X. What's more metal than X, right?
Nothing.
Right. So DRAX, and we're like SIS, and I'm like, and then we could even be really facetious and put DXS on everything, which we ended up doing.
Yes, we did ad nauseum.
But so then that's when we came up with a name. So we had a name. We had started learning some Metallica songs on an acoustic guitar. The very first one I ever learned was Metal Militia. Really weird that's where you start, but
Yeah.
it's not even my favorite Metallica song. But it was like it's actually pretty easy, really, for
Yeah.
for never ever playing. It's like you just play really fast and rhythm. I played rhythm. I didn't play the leads.
Fair enough.
Damn it. But then we go into that year of high school, and you're in a project, and then we're like, yeah, dude, we're trying to get a started up, and you're telling us about yours, and you're like, we should do a battle of the bands. We would totally just like destroy you guys. And I'm like, huh? I thought we were trying to be friends here, and you were being friendly until it came to like playing together. And then you're like, no, we're better than you. We'll have a battle of the bands and we'll kick your ass. I'm like, why can't we just play a show together?
Because it was that. I mean, what do you learn in like? Think about where we grew up in small town fucking USA. You only see like band success through movies, and it's always that cutthroat bullshit. So that's what I thought it was. I didn't know any better. I was just trying to be cool because I wasn't cool, dude. I didn't have a fucking fashion sense until my junior year of high school. I used to wear fucking track pants to fucking school.
I wouldn't really.
I'm just in drumming gear right now because I got a show tonight, and I'm like there, mentally.
I got you. It's cool. We'll see. And then that cutthroat BS would continue through my first run with DraXsiS.
Yeah.
And then it would still be there a little bit into the next level of DraXsiS. But there's one thing, like, and I'm not trying to bounce around too much.
Oh, no, bounce. That's what we do here.
Pogo, 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 pogo.
Yes, some System
Okay.
of a Down. Fuck yeah, great
All right.
reference.
But like, you eventually got over that, and what in like the project that you're involved in now, like, there's none of that.
Because I've learned that there's no time for it.
Well, but like, the networking is so much more better for you.
Bingo.
Than trying to have friction or trying to try to build that between people. And granted, I mean, back then I was confused. I was just like, but then I'm still like, okay, fine. we'll play. And I'm like, we need to learn more songs. We don't know any yet. I know. But eventually, the whole thing with William, unfortunately, never materialized. It was one of those things where he wanted to do it, and then once we started the school year, and I believe that was our junior year, so he started working.
Yeah,
he was in that. He was in our DO program where he would be there for like the first half of the day and then work the last half of the day. And he just kind of got some different goals in mind for himself, and decided that he didn't want to do it. So now, and I don't know what happened with Slide Elsewhere. I don't remember.
Well, what kind of happened was I pretty much just wasn't getting callbacks. No one was responding to, hey, we should practice when I was at school talking or whatever. About at the exact same time, junior year, I started football. So I'm starting football. That's where I meet Mason, our who would become our drummer. Mason and I hit it off immediately. The first thing he did was, hey, man, you should check out this album. It's really cool, and handed me his Discman, which had the Black Album. And it was like on like track 5 or 6. It was somewhere around Wherever I May Roam.
Yeah, that's fine.
Asking
As I
now.
say, just like definitively, yeah, that's number 5.
I can't remember for some reason. And I was like, oh my God, this band is really incredible. I need to continue to check this out. And he lent me that CD for like 4 months. And then I finally went out and bought my own, and then that was when my obsession with Metallica really amplified. But while all that was happening, I was like checking out him playing drums, and I was like, wow, this guy's really talented. And then I was budding friends with you guys, and we were having this kind of like, we're going to destroy you thing or whatever. And obviously Tony was in the mix, always talking about doing a band, lurking and whatnot.
He was always like saying that like he's going to let us destroy each other, then he's going to come from the ashes.
Yeah, of course.
There was always that talk. I mean,
'Cause-
Tony is he's such a really funny individual like that, and especially back then.
Oh, yeah.
I always enjoyed hanging around Tony.
I think that he took his biggest influence in life from Mick Foley, the many faces of Tony. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he definitely, dude. He's definitely gone through a lot of gimmicks over the years.
But I
for
think
sure.
that's true to him.
Exactly. He's definitely morphed, and not in a bad way. He's morphed into a different person, a different personality, and all those different versions of him. And some of there's always a little bit that carries on to the next version.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of Tony.
There's parts of him, and that's where he's finding his true self. But
Exactly.
when Mason and I were talking one day at school, it was like, man, we should really fucking start a band. Like, really do it. Like, I'm more serious now, And I think I just told you guys, like, you guys should just come over, and I got a bass, he's got drums, y'all have guitars, we could just do that, And it didn't really go how we planned. If you'll recall the first practice, do you remember what the first planned practice was and how all that kind of transpired?
That was Halloween 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do, because you had to work.
Yeah, I was furious.
You had to work, and me and Jason stayed in town, and we ate so much food. So much food. Oh my God, dude. All right, so Jason used to work at McDonald's as well.
Yep.
There in Hoopstead. And I just remember us going in, and him working there, he walked right to the kitchen and started making himself and me burgers. And he put bacon on there and everything. So we got our cheeseburgers, and we went to the park. We were listening to some music, and then we went to Subway a little while later and got footlongs. Went to the cemetery and ate food. then we're still waiting on you. So then we ended up. Now hold on. We got to practice for we practiced all that before because we practiced before you went to work.
Correct.
Because I think your shift started at I'm just gonna throw a number out there, 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And we got out of school and we only practiced we only I don't even know if we did anything.
I think we jammed a little bit for 18 seconds of For Whom the Bell Tolls, but
I don't even think we were there yet.
we did not. It did not go.
We
so
met
well.
each other and we saw each other with our instruments, going, "Holy crap! This could be something. Let's try again next week."
Mm-hmm.
But so then, okay, I'll pick up after the footlongs. We then went to the Chinese buffet.
Hell yeah!
And they ate more food. I'm telling, dude.
I love this part of the story because this is part of the band history I don't know.
Oh my
This
gosh.
is great.
I mean, I don't know what Jason was doing, but I couldn't hang, man. I remember,
I understand the case of the munchies, but that's a whole other level.
dude, from 5 o'clock until you got off work at I don't know what time you got off
I
work.
got off at 9.
Oh my god, dude, that's
So it's
4
hours.
Too much food. Too much food.
I thought you guys were gonna say, and then we went to Pizza King, and then I was gonna spontaneously combust.
No, because
It's right next door.
I remember sitting in the parking lot of McDonald's waiting to pick you up because we were going to go back to Jason's and we were going to spend the night. We're going to basically talk about what happened at practice and what we're going to do from here. So I was like, hey, next time let's play a song maybe. So I just remember sitting there playing Jason's Game Boy. He had this Game Boy Advance and I'm just like, no. I am miserable. I am totally miserable.
All that food has finally hit the epicenter.
And I'm like, you know what? I should really go take a crap right now. And then I saw you walk into the car and went, oh no. And then you got in the car and we took off. And what? So the car ride to
It's 15 minutes.
and then time I'm just going, oh.
You had cold sweats. Everything.
Oh my
You were
God.
just
Every time you hit a bump, no. And I'm like, hey, I'm gonna run home real quick. I'll be over in a few. And then, so I get out of the car, and I am rigid. I'm ass clenching. I have no key to get inside. I'm punching the numbers on my garage door, going, "Oh, it's not going fast enough."
Go up.
And I can't bend over.
Please tell me. Please tell me your dad didn't stop you as soon as you walked in the door.
They weren't home.
Oh, thank God. Oh.
So I couldn't run.
You didn't blame, did you?
No. But it was close. Literally, things started shooting from my ass before I even hit the toilet seat. It was and I'm like, oh my God.
Dr. Octopus blast.
Oh. And then it was one of those things where, after the initial wave, you're just in this weird sort of bliss, you're not
Having
sure
survived the chaos.
you're not sure whether you whether you've orgasmed or taken a shit or both, and you're just wondering, what now?
Yeah, what?
You
now,
almost fall
man?
asleep sitting there.
Oh, man.
You're just like, well, I can't do that.
It's funny. I didn't realize that DraXsiS is tied in so much shit. It's just the creation of the band and this story that I didn't know. Because I think on that side of the story, we dropped you off and went to Jason's, and I started fucking around on the PlayStation or something.
Yeah,
or fucking around with his toys. He had such dope different figures and shit.
It took me a little while to get there because then my parents got home, and then I talked to them for a little bit, and I think I took a shower.
You probably would have had to.
Yeah, right. But I took a shower and then I headed over, and then we hung out and we just I think it was all night of us just talking about what we wanted to do. I think that might have been the night that I played Final Fantasy VIII and beat the game with graphics all glitched out and you couldn't read what I was selecting, but I just beat the game, having memorized what words were what.
Physically knew where things were, just on muscle memory.
Like it literally looked like you just took like the most potent like mushroom you've ever taken. Right? And you're just tripping out like a son of a bitch because dude, like everything was like so like because all the graphics, the effects have like this lighting effect goes shh, but then they're all like rainbowed effect, so it's like like the whole like main battle theme should have just been Tom Sawyer, you know.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that just happened. So it's weird to think, like, if we're talking about music and stuff, before we move forward, when was your first desire to play music? Was it just your conversation with William and Jason that decided? I mean, because like I physically remember the day that I got the opportunity to get that guitar from Mr. Reed. And I told my dad, like, oh, my dad, you used to play guitar. This guy's selling a guitar for cheap. You should buy this guitar. And he did. Mm-hmm. It became a fixture in the band's history, obviously. It had a huge fall, a tumble and a fall. And
I think Tony has that.
Tony owns it now, yeah. So, like, I remember Dad playing the guitar and me just going, fuck, that's what I want to do. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what I should do. I should do that. That's awesome. But where did that, like, kick off for you?
Listening to Metallica, Disturbed, Linkin Park, Drowning Pool, a lot of the bands from that, like, that I got into in the 2000, 2001, 2002 era. Sitting there playing air guitar on my Mark McGuire baseball bat that I had in my bedroom at the time. It had like these little hand grips. He melded his hand grip so that way when you held the bat, you held it like he did.
Interesting.
So when you'd hold it in the other hand, it would be almost like where the frets would be, you know. Early day Guitar Hero before it was ever even thought of, you know. But yeah, just playing air guitar, talking to Jason, listening to music with him, and then he ended up getting a guitar, so I'd actually fiddle on a real guitar.
That was the first act?
No. That was the acoustic.
That was the acoustic. You got the acoustic first.
And then I ended up getting the first act. Christmas, one of those years. And then from there, I think I had that because I had that for the first practice.
Yeah.
So that must have been 2002 Christmas that I got that because I actually wanted to try and learn how to play Metallica songs. And that's all it was. I just wanted to learn how to play some of these songs. So I never got like any sort of book with it. I just had guitar tablature, and me and Jason would fiddle. And then the idea came up where William's like, I used to play drums when I was a kid. Like, we're like, really now? You know, and Jason had an infatuation with Jason Newsted from Metallica, so he wanted to play bass. Uh-huh. Interestingly enough, he did not play bass in our band.
Not a single time.
Because you had already had that mantle because you were originally the bass player. So, and then that's the drive to play more music was just us getting stuff rolling. Like, I didn't have a big, huge set goal of wanting to play music. It was like, let's try this out. Let's try and have some fun with it. It wasn't until later that you would get into the writing of the songs that would actually fuel like the creative bug in me. Because before that, it was just, let's play some songs, you know?
Yeah, just jamming out and just trying stuff out, learning how to do that thing.
Yeah, well, see, and you had mentioned From Whom the Bell Tolls, and that became a big staple.
Yep. For
our band, even into its dying day, that song was probably still played.
Yeah, I still will never forget how we played it either.
Well, and it's funny because like we changed it and then we changed it back because we got tired of playing it that way.
Yeah,
we're like, hey, let's go, and like that felt really weird to play it the original way.
Yeah,
after a while, because we ended up like just adding a few little like our own, you know, we kind of made it our own, and I guess you could say in that way. But I remember. In December, spent all the whole band spent the night at Jason's house, and we watched S&M. And
I think I got that for Christmas.
I got that.
You got it. I did end up getting it for that Christmas. This was before that?
it was early December. We ended up going to go Christmas shopping. I got a GameCube that day. I remember that.
Yeah.
But I also ended up getting the S&M DVD. So we actually got to watch it instead of just listening to it. And watching them play, I think, inspired all of us. Because it's different to see musicians play than to just hear it. To actually see them doing their thing. You're just like, wow, we do what they're doing just on a smaller scale. We could be that. And then so that was like the next level, and going forward with that, writing our own songs. I want to say that came into the spring of 2004 when the first songs were written. Ophichus, Shadows.
Yep. Cacophony 1.
Cacophony 1. I wrote that on, what program was it? It was a tablature program that I actually put the song in there.
Wow.
As I was writing it. It was like a very like new stupid version of like the old composers playing their harpsichord and writing down their notes. Playing their harpsichord, writing down some notes. And that's how I ended up writing the lyrics. So I would just have that play. And it was also during that session, or that time, that Lost in Seclusion was written.
Yep.
And I'll never forget. Now that, you got to remember, we were teenagers. So for us, trying to do stuff together wasn't always the most fluid way of doing things.
Correct.
Because I had this song, Lost in Seclusion. I'm like, it's a badass song. It's a ballad. I think this is going to be really badass. And there was zero interest. None. And I'm like, oh man, this song's gonna be great. I see this. I have this part. I have the whole song here, but if we just put it together, it's gonna become something special. And there was zero interest. And a lot of that I felt came from Jason. Jason, as much as I loved our friendship, he's very hard-headed, very stubborn.
Yes.
At least at the time.
Yes.
I can't say to what he's like now. He seems really cool. I just saw him a few months ago.
Yeah, you were saying that.
Yeah, so that it was really cool to kind of catch up with him. But the old Jason that we knew back then, once his feet were planted down, that's what either he was doing or not doing. And if he said, no, I'm not doing it, you're not getting him to do it. And that, as an artist and as a bandmate, that was frustrating, because I'm going to flash back to just a second here. You guys almost kicked me out of the band.
Really?
Yes.
I actually don't remember this.
It was in May of 2004.
Okay.
We were trying to expand our set. Now, we started writing songs.
Okay.
We had our 2 covers. Mm-hmm. You're like, hey, let's pick a few more, and then we'll have like a collection of like 10 or 12 songs, and we'll kind of have it half and half it. And that's kind of what became DraXsiS, was half covers, half originals. That's almost almost the entirety of the lifespan of the band. That's what it was.
Correct.
You're like, let's get a few more. Let's throw some covers out there. And I had just started dating a girl. And we're not going to throw names. We'll just say that she's a librarian.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I do recall this, but I do remember why we almost kicked you out. And if you don't care, tell the
story.
So, what was happening is we were trying to have really serious practices, and as a 16, I think we were 16.
This is 2004, so I was about to turn 17. Yeah, so 16.
Okay, so about 16. And whatever the dance at the end of the year had happened. It was junior year prom, maybe, I think.
That year was junior year prom.
Okay, and you and the librarian.
Yeah, we hooked up on that.
Yeah,
on that night.
And then the next thing I know, she's at our practice, and like in between songs, you're stopping to play to walk over and like interact with her or smooch her or whatever. Which, hey, I vibe that. I get that. Like young love, it's cool. But I think,
yeah, whatever.
But I think
that was called young lust.
Yeah, okay, sure, that's fine. Young lust, whatever. But it was just frustrating because I think that we were almost at a point in the band's history then, which was very early on in what we were doing. We were starting to find our rhythm. Mm-hmm. We were starting to be able to actually play these songs. We could play For Whom the Bell Tolls. We could play Enter Sandman. We weren't half of us downstairs, half of us upstairs with the sound system in my dad's house cranked literally as loud as it could go so we could jam through the song together. But since the drums were downstairs and everybody else had to be upstairs.
I remember that.
It was fucking wonky as fuck.
I remember that.
We could have just brought the drums into the living room. Like it
we
would
did
have been
times.
fine. We did a couple times. That's right. We tried to, like, man. Oh,
That's where the My Eye story comes from.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, there's one moment where you guys seriously considered kicking me out of the band. Because the whole thing of her being at practice and me not putting enough attention towards the band, that built. But then we were having the discussion about adding some more songs to the repertoire. And I'm sitting up there, and I still remember I'm laying on the floor with my head on her lap.
Okay.
And there's two different sides to this. There's
Okay.
my side, and then there's your guys' side.
Okay.
To your guys' side, you're like, this kid, this guy, we got these two together, and all he's doing is he just wants to be with her. He doesn't care about this anymore. He's not putting any songs out. He's not suggesting anything because he doesn't care anymore. All he cares about is his girl. With me, I am like, I want to cover some Megadeth, and Jason won't let me.
Oh, God, yes, I remember. That was a big point of contention. And I am pretty sure I talked Jason off the ledge from kicking you out because I was like, dude, you can't say that, like, he's not trying because you were. And I even brought up Lost at that point because I do remember you had showed us. And I was like, he wrote this Lost song. We didn't even give it a chance, And I think that was that was about, like you said, May. And then it was only August and everything had really... the landscape of the band changed forever.
It did. And here's the thing with that. I was very frustrated because no matter what I threw out, he would say no, and there would be no discussion. And I just felt very angry about that. I'm like, it's not fair. It isn't fair.
Yeah,
like,
why is he getting to do all the Metallica in the world he wants and you can't even suggest a song?
Exactly. And it was all because I don't like Dave Mustaine. Well, to be fair, I don't really like Dave Mustaine.
Who does? Dave Mustaine doesn't like Dave Mustaine.
I mean, I think he, honestly, like, there are things I personally don't agree with him about. But if you have a sit-down conversation with him, you're probably going to have a cool time.
Yeah.
It's just like almost with anybody. However, it was like that. Jason had his preconceived notion about stuff, and he didn't want to do it. What's funny is that me and him actually had a conversation about that much, much later. And he goes, that's kind of funny because then he got with a group and they were playing some Megadeth songs. He goes, hey, this ain't bad.
Wait, that's interesting to me because I didn't know he ever played any other bands.
I don't ever think it got too serious.
Okay.
I think they started jamming, and they wanted to do like Symphony of Destruction, and he was like, I think he as a person grew.
Oh, well, you have to. I think we all did.
And so I think he grew out of that. Again, I can't say, and I don't want to sit here and rag on that, but that's how I felt.
Yeah, totally.
I felt very frustrated, and then you guys took that, me sitting there not saying anything, because I'm just like, why do I even need to suggest anything?
It's gonna get shut down.
Why should I even put anything out there if it's just gonna get shut down? And then you guys are like, why is it? He's just gonna lay there on his girl's lap, not saying anything. So it's like we didn't have the wherewithal to actually sit down and discuss it because we didn't want the conversation, not that we didn't want the conversation, we didn't want the confrontation. And so going into that summer was when we played our first show.
Garage Day.
Yeah. And we ended up playing in Mason's garage.
I was in flip-flops.
You were in the
black
fish
jean shorts.
You were in the fishbone flip-flops. I remember those.
Yeah, Dad still has them. Still kicking. For real.
Oh man, but seeing pictures from that day, I remember Tony opened up for us.
Yep.
Which then became customary.
Yep.
Which is hilarious because you look at the pictures and he's just like sitting in the back of the garage stewing. Well, no, he's not. He's arms crossed.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, I think I remember talking to Tony and he was like, I wanted to be up there playing with you guys, but there was behind the scenes politics that wouldn't allow that yet.
Oh God, yeah, that was. It's weird. You forget all these little details until you start talking about them, and it's like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
But the behind the scenes was Tony had declared himself a Satanist, which is fine, whatever religion you want to believe in. However, when you have a strongly conservative Christian father for your drummer, there was no chance. If Mason would have left the band, we don't have a drummer, and there weren't a lot of people filling that spot.
No, I can only think of like one other person that was even talked about at the time.
Yeah,
Zach McKenzie.
Zach McKenzie, and he was too scared to do it. He jammed and it was great, but he was too scared to play shows.
That sucks.
And it never came through.
I wasn't there for that,
Nope.
or at least was that after I left the band? No, you guys.
It
tried
was,
out?
and actually that's weird because there was actually another guy we tried out, and I remember we met this guy at the mall. Quick future tangent into something that we probably really won't discuss too much. We went to the mall and we were walking up to people with my Zune, like, listen to DraXsiS, it's cool. You hear this song or whatever, and people were like, oh yeah, cool, it's great or whatever. And then we were
Zune.
looking. Yeah, I still have Zune, rocking a Zune. What up? But we were looking for a drummer at that time, and this guy was like, I'll drum. I like drumming. I can drum. And we were like, oh, cool. Bring your drums, man. We'll do it. And dude came over, lugged his drum set, got downstairs, and then wouldn't just jam. Every time we would start jamming, he would stop and go, what kind of music do we want to play? And Tony and I were like, just fucking jam with us, dude. Just play something and let's just see what we have here. And every time he would just go, what kind of music are we going to play? We literally rounded and bound for like an hour and a half. And Tony was just like, can we just be done? Can we just be done? I got shit to do. And just dipped. You know how Tony does. So that was it. And this guy never, we never heard from him again. I don't even remember his name. Joe Schmo 3000 or some shit.
Joe Schmo 3000. We ended up hooking up with another band that summer, which would eventually reform into Furion.
Yeah.
But
power of circumstance here too. Someone running their mouth that shouldn't have ran their mouth actually helped us quite a bit. Do you recall that?
No.
There was a girl, Joyce. Okay.
Yes.
And her boyfriend, Michael, was hanging around the Razor Bracelet group at the time we did the skate park show.
Now, that was at the Civic Center?
The Civic Center, July of 2004.
Do you remember how we didn't want to open?
Yeah.
And then you look at all the other bands that played, and we should have been the opener.
We should have been the opener.
Well, because this is our second show. I've only ever seen vocals on one or two songs.
Yep.
Because Jason was supposed to be the vocalist, and he was still too nervous to actually sing.
Uh-huh.
And then you hadn't found your voice yet for that, because it was supposed to be Jason.
Yep.
And then, so we played the majority of that Civic Center show with no vocals.
Yep.
Was I using the Behringer on that show? I was.
The Blue Devil, that's when it all went crazy.
That was a start, because I remember Mason had family up, and they were going to sit in on one of our practices because, their nephew or cousin, whoever, was in a band, and they wanted to check it out because they probably weren't going to ever see us play live, or at that point, when were they going to be back in time?
Yeah.
To actually see us play. So basically, your dad got this new guitar amp, and he goes, first guitarist walks through the door gets to use it. And that was me.
That was Brando.
And there's a reason for that. You remember the reason?
I don't.
Jason never showed up.
Oh, that's right.
We never got a phone call. He just never showed up that day.
Yep. And that was really the beginning of the end. It started there.
It was. Well, he was hanging out with some of his other friends. Jason at that time sort of had two different groups of friends. He had us and then these other group in Rankin, right? And there was beginning to become like a split based on like he's having to divide his time up. Because he's still doing the band thing with us. And then you've got, time with his other friends. Well, they ended up getting lost in Indiana. Don't know how you ended up getting lost. Granted, okay, this is not the age of cell phones. There wasn't Google Maps.
There was no GPS.
There was no GPS. But still, it can't be that hard. But I digress. He never showed up. And I don't remember when the first conversation was had because we had the Civic Center show, and then at the end of the month we had another show at
Henning.
It was before that.
Oh, the VFW show.
The VFW show.
That's right. We could, and that's why I brought up that Michael dude because he told us that we took second, so we were going to open the show at the VFW. So we went and seeked out the Razor Bracelet dudes.
Yeah.
And they did not know anything about us opening for anybody. They won the Battle of the Bands thing, and they were going to play this follow-up show that they earned. And then I guess they must have felt bad because we were stupid kids who didn't know any better, so they put us on the show with them.
Well,
and we opened for them.
Not that first one.
Yeah, at VFW, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
They played first.
Did they really?
Because we had a deal. They'd open for us first, and then we would get to close. So that way we would get to close the show because we didn't get to close the Civic Center show.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And then at the Henning show, we would open for them and they would close because they invited us to their show that they got hired for.
That's right. That is right. I do remember that.
And so
now.
that's how that went down. Because that was the Joe Thrasher, most metal name in the world. Joe Thrasher.
Yeah, and he did the most punk rock fucking thing.
Dude,
you know his wife's name before she married him was Tammy Slaughter?
What?
Yeah. Literally, her last name was Slaughter. Tammy Slaughter married Joe Thrasher, and then now she's Tammy Thrasher. And now they're divorced, so she's probably Slaughter
are they?
again. Yeah.
Well, I know he ended up with in a country project.
Yeah.
But what he ended up stepping on his guitar.
Most punk rock thing I've ever seen. Stepped on the neck. Straight up.
Because he ended up like, I don't know if he dropped his guitar or if he accidentally stepped on it, but he said one fragment of a sentence to me that stuck with me for years. Because me and Mason's dad saw him hit this Fender, this baby blue looking, sky blue looking Fender. Looked beautiful. I'm not even a Fender fan, and this thing was pretty.
It was pretty
expensive.
Yeah,
pretty expensive.
Yeah, because it was an American-made Fender.
Yeah, he just knocked this thing, man, and then we're like, oh. He goes, "That's character,"
and
then he ended up so it was an expensive guitar, and then he ended up like walking on it.
He stepped on the neck.
Yeah, he's like, and then we're like, what?
That guy was just showing his dick that day. In retrospect, we were impressionable kids.
Yeah.
And he just did some rock and roll shit in front of us, and we were just like, oh, cool. He was probably going, fuck, why am I doing this?
Yeah, right.
Hope I don't fuck it up.
I remember one day he randomly stopped me at the gas station to show me his new guitar. It was like this blue Les Paul. I'm like,
oh, yeah, that thing was sick. He came over and showed me, too.
But then it was the Henning show. The Henning show that we played and that we brought. Here's the thing. It was a mutual thing because then they got us to bring our PA.
Yep.
And then so they got to use the PA. But that meant we had to stay further. And that is the right thing to do. If you're going to be opening for bands, you want to stay and watch the other bands and show support because, I mean, that's just what you do, man. They stay and watch you and you stay and watch them. And sometimes there are shows that's the only crowd that you're playing to are the other bands.
Oh, yes.
Hey, that is the name of the game because then guess what? Those are the people that remember that and then they'll go, "Hey, dude, we got a show. Might actually be some people this time. Let's go. Let's go have some fun." They'll remember that you stayed there and watched.
And
that.
it's a good feeling to be a band that is well liked by your peers.
Yes, of course. That forms that brotherhood, that forms that bond.
Yes, exactly.
And then when you get shows and you're trying to think of people, trying to think of acts to put out on like a lineup, we need one or two more acts. Well, guess what? I remember playing with these guys. So then you start calling people up.
Do you remember what happened at the Henning show, by the way?
Yeah.
I mean, not the bad thing.
Oh,
but the thing that involved me at Henning.
I don't know.
When Razor Bracelet finished their set, I think Dad and I went up and we did 4 Kiss songs.
No.
I played bass. You don't recall that?
I don't remember that. I remember the jam at the end of Metal Assault, but I don't remember because that was when your dad, Mason's dad, played.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember that. I don't remember the Kiss stuff. I was in a very, very foul mood
by the end of that.
Yeah. Well, and it was a conflicted mood too, because I knew things happened that weren't going to settle well. And what happened, guys, is we played the show.
Great show.
Yeah, it was one of our best shows, like, to date at that point, and we were nothing. Like, there was no reason for us to be there.
Yeah.
Let's be completely freaking honest with you. There's no reason why we should have been there, allotted as much time as we were given, and played to anybody. Like, we should have been still in that basement practicing for another year before we even
showed anybody that we had
anybody.
A band.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and that I'm not trying to put us down, but really, we were doing more than what we had any right doing. But everybody is at some point, Well, we played that show, and of course, what did I say? They're using our PA, so we had to stay. And there's that term, had to stay. I'm not saying that as a derogatory thing. We had planned on staying anyways. We would have. But Jason wasn't going to stay. Now, here's the thing. Instead of him saying, "Hey guys, I want to, I got some other stuff I want to do. I want to go, hang with some other friends. They invited me out." Instead of saying that to us and us beforehand, and us going, "Hey man, don't worry about it. We'll get your stuff." I walk out to my car for some reason, and he's about ready to dip, not say bye, not say anything. He's just gonna leave. And that's when he told me that he was leaving, and I went and told you. You were pissed.
Oh, yeah.
Your dad got pissed.
Oh, yeah.
But your dad wasn't even in the band at the point.
No. He was just our PA guy.
Yeah. He was our PA guy, our technician, our roadie, our electrician.
Yep.
He was
audio engineer, mixer, producer.
He wore a lot of hats for that band.
Yep.
So while I say that he got mad and wasn't even in the band, he had every right to be upset.
Oh yeah.
And I think Jason owed him money.
Yes.
For something I don't remember what. But yeah, Jason took off and he went to go hang out with those same friends that he got lost with in Indiana. And it was that I just remember like he left his guitar on like a pool table.
Yep. It's an image that's burned in my head. I remember walking to do something. We were packing up to leave. And I looked over, and his fucking Warlock was sitting on a pool table, untouched. And I knew it was his because he had the Kerry King Warlock.
Yeah.
And he was the only motherfucker that played it. So it was obvious. And I just thought to myself, if I don't grab this fucking guitar, he's fucking lost an instrument. And now he's made me be responsible for his shit without saying anything to me. And I felt very slighted by that.
I remember getting told by your dad, "Don't bother coming back to Hoopston. Just go home. Just go home, and we'll take care of it." I mean, we didn't at this point. How much stuff did we really have to unload compared to later years?
Yeah, later years was much worse.
But I remember driving home and there being a harvest moon, a blood red moon, and I just remember I remember getting the feeling like everything is going to change because I knew what kind of person Jason was at the time, and I knew how pissed you guys were about it. I wasn't happy, but I wasn't as mad as you guys. I was much more forgiving in that matter, but it was very uneasy. It was a very uneasy drive home and a very uneasy next couple of weeks because we finally had to sit down with him, and it did not go well.
Nope. I'm trying to like remember all that. I think I blocked a lot of it, you know.
I don't remember. I just remember your dad said he wasn't allowed at the house anymore.
Yeah.
Unless he apologized.
Yeah, and he wouldn't. Because that's not who Jason was.
No, because he didn't feel like he did anything wrong. And we were in a moment of, well, what the hell do we do? And this is my internal struggle, because I knew where you stood. You were like, I'm not sacrificing what we have built for him after what he's kind of been showing us these last few months. I'm more than willing to go on without him. Mason was dead set against kicking him out, 100%.
Yeah,
because there was a sort of this friendship shift when the band got going, where it was me and Jason and you and Mason, and then it swapped.
It was me and you and those two.
Yeah, as far as how much you hung out with and talked to, and a lot of that had to do with classes we were in high school, and just that sort of makeshift division. And I was so conflicted because I understood where you and your dad were coming from, 100%. But at the same time, like, I've known Jason since like kindergarten, first grade, and if I do this, I'm throwing away friendship. And I didn't want to do that at all. And I knew what he was going to do, and I knew exactly what he was going to say before we even ever had the meeting. I knew exactly how that meeting was going to go.
Yeah.
If he had apologized that day, it would have blown my fucking mind. Let's just say that.
Me too, honestly.
I went into that meeting knowing that this is the last time we're going to be in the same room together.
As the band, I think it was too.
It was.
Because there's never been a moment. It's close. Because history, there was a little bit of history down the road further when the band rebirthed.
Yeah,
with Jason.
But the whole thing with him, so we ended up kicking him out of the band. And looking back on it, it's one of my very few regrets in my entire life. But then again, like, in retrospect, there's like not much that I could do, like, to change it, because it was on a course. Things were heading in that direction, I feel. And there was nothing that I could do to get him to apologize. And there's nothing that I could do to get Jim to change his mind. Your dad. So I'm like,
hands are tied.
What do I do? But that moment, yeah, that fractured our friendship, 100%. And I've always regretted that. That ride home was the most quiet ride home me and him had ever had.
Yeah.
He what we used to do is that I used to, we would practice every Friday.
Yeah.
Friday after school or something like that. And like we were so close for so long, and then after that we weren't, because that was the start of senior year. And then we did not talk at all. I think we had one class together.
Home ec?
No.
I think we had home ec with Jason, though, for real.
I ended up switching, or that was the adult living class.
Yeah.
I had him in U.S. government and psychology, because it was divided in a year. Yeah. Half government, half psychology. Half of our class took government the first semester, the other half took psychology, and then it swapped.
Yep. For
like the last, but it was the same teacher.
Weird.
And it was Mr. Hyde, because Mr. Burt was still deployed.
Yep.
So we had a year-long substitute and never had any homework.
Yep.
It was badass.
And then he freaked out that one day because people were talking in his class over him, and he like blew his lid and said, "Fuck this, fuck that, fuck you, fuck everything." Like, it was incredible. As a kid, I was just like, oh my God, he is officially snapped. Like, this is happening.
I remember him getting angry at one point, and I also remember us bringing up nation states to him.
Yes.
And we all got to make our own countries. We all got to go to the computer lab. That was just something that we found, like, stupidly on the internet. And I remember we also wore lightsabers on our belts leading up to the Revenge of the Sith.
Yep.
And we all had our own color of lightsaber. Hey,
Yeah, just
don't hit yourself with your own microphone.
Oh, I totally did. It's great.
But we all had our own colors of lightsabers, and I think I was blue. You were green.
I feel like I was green. Yeah.
Yeah, because then Dustin Powell was purple.
Purple.
And Tony was red.
Of course.
And then I remember me and Tony were in that class, and he brings out his lightsaber. He's like, Mr. High, like the Sith command you. And he's walking forward and with his lightsaber, and I just flung mine out, and I said, "Not today, Sith." And then Mr. High's like, what is going on in my classroom? We never got in trouble for that, and nowadays that would not fly.
Not even close.
No way. It was a lot of
We
fun.
had a whole
though.
lightsaber duel like during senior week.
During the picnic.
Yeah, didn't you get smashed in the knuckles by Hardcastle?
Yes.
He
yes.
fucking hit you with the hilt of this lightsaber.
It was I want to say he had your
Double-sided?
No. It was your Dooku.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he got me with the hilt on that. Well, he got me right in the thumbnail.
Oh,
and it just hurt like a sumbitch.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go back to the band talk really quick, because then we kicked Jason out. We went into the fall as a 3-piece.
Played one show as a 3-piece.
We did. That was Mental Assault.
Yep.
And that's when the Behringer died. So it didn't even, like, that amp was the shittiest amp.
Yep.
Coolest amp, because that's how I wrote Cacophony.
Yeah, the cool reverb effect.
For the intro, yeah. But and then we ended up getting the Icing the Body Electric recording thing, where we got to record a song.
Yep.
And we were working on a new song that was going to be featured in there, and then and then never wrote the song.
Yeah, and we never wrote the song, won an award for the thing that we never did.
Well, because we submitted what the song was about and the song title, and it was there in pieces. All we had to do was finish it.
Yeah.
But we were also at that time, if you remember, writing Rise of the Phoenix.
Yeah, I remember writing that in the living room. I wrote a lot of that in the living room, and I think the lyrics were all you, right? I feel like 100% of the lyrics were you. Because I feel like what happened was, if my shitty memory, but like I feel like you wrote the lyrics. You're like, here's what I have, huh? And then I took it and I was like, huh? And then we had talked about changing Ophagus because it was kind of that cha-cha thing. Yeah, to be the intro of Rise of the Phoenix, and it was the rebirth of that song.
Yeah, I remember we both wrote a lot of lyrics at the time, and I don't remember if that was a collaboration effort. I know that I remember me showing you what I had, and I do think that the ultimate, what became the final set lyrics, were ultimately collaborative as far as like putting it together.
Okay.
Putting together and maybe changing a line here or there.
Okay.
Because I remember us doing that in the adult living class.
Yeah.
We were, because that's all we ever did.
Yeah, of course.
We never did any work in school besides the band.
Well, do you know that in sophomore year, Silent Rob and I failed biology with Mr. Bibb because all we did was play Chinese football for the whole year.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it was awesome. We would feed the iguana and then just play Chinese football because I was like, I don't understand biology. Get the fuck away.
I passed biology. I never did my homework. But that's just because the tests were so easy.
Oh, wow.
Well, because I had Medler. Oh. He was goofy as fuck.
Yeah.
I loved that guy. He was always like, I can't even like, oh, I'm sorry. He had a mustache.
Yeah.
But yeah, just imagine me putting my finger over my lip.
Yeah, you did that non-visual or that non-verbal cue.
Yeah, exactly. Wyatt does that now.
This?
Yes. And then he laughs.
Maniacally?
No, he just thinks it's funny. Oh man, so we got the Icing the Body Electric thing.
Yep.
Oh, we were gonna write a song called "Crucify Me," and I remember really getting into the concept of the song, but never actually completing the song. So the song that we ended up recording and submitting was "Rise of the Phoenix," and then we went and we recorded the song in the studio We practiced that one song for like a month.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we took a break from practicing everything else. We just practiced that one song.
Yep.
That was, I want to say us recording that came right after we played the skating rink show.
Yeah, and I was wrong. That was the second time we played as a 3-piece because Tony was there
Filming
us, and that was the interview actually.
Oh my God! Do you still have the interview?
Somewhere, yeah, I've got the tape somewhere at Dad's. Absolutely, you can watch the whole thing VHS. It's hilarious because I edited that whole video in Mr. Reed's class with his editing software. Put all kinds of effects on it. Had the bonus interviews in between the sets and whatnot. Very, very, very bizarre to remember. But that's actually funny because I feel like we're not gonna avoid this. It's just a part of the band's history. But the skating rink show was like the week you started dating Jacqueline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
It is. And what's funny is that Jacqueline was working at the skating rink with Tony's girlfriend.
Kelly. No, they weren't.
Jessica.
dating. Jessica. That's right.
Was it Jessica?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he thought I was trying to get her attention and flirt with her. He was getting jealous.
During our show.
Like, I would, either during the show or during our breaks or whatever, even leading up to, I would just go over there and start talking.
Uh-huh.
He had no idea because it's even on tape or was on tape, maybe in the cut, where he called me out on it.
I think that might still be on there. I don't think.
Well, because see, like we were able to convince the owner of the skating rink to let people pay to come in to not skate and just watch us.
Yep.
And so we had a group of people that came in just for that, and some of them was Tony's friends, and I was over there, and they were our friends too because we all went to school together.
Yeah.
And they were there, and they were near my side of our makeshift stage on the floor, and I would go over there and I would showboat. I would play, and I mean, granted, I sucked, but I was playing. I would play right in front of them, as what you would do for an audience, right? And he's getting jelly. He's getting jealous as hell, and he mentions it, and I'm like, "What? No, I have a girlfriend, or was about to have a girlfriend."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." He felt pretty bad about that.
Yeah, and I don't know if you ever saw the video, but I think in the interview that he did with us, I was jokingly doing the dick suck thing while you were talking about her and stuff because it was so hilarious to me because I was not in that place in my life. So I was just mocking the fuck out of you. I think Shania Twain is on in the background in that somewhere, it's a really fucked up piece of my life, but it's there for everyone to see,
I look, I don't remember it, but I envision it in my head. It's not hard. Well,
because you were leaning forward more on the thing, and I'm back going.
That's exactly what you would have done.
Yeah, exactly, totally. No joke, you douche. If we're getting into it,
Exactly.
But that January, not only does it have the icing the body electric thing tied to it, but it started off a string of us doing shows every month that carried on through the end of April, and it's just weird how everything is timed as far as remembering things. Because I felt like some of the band dramas happened much later. Because going into 2005, we had the Icing the Body Electric thing, but we also started work on in theaters.
Later on that year.
Yeah.
Well, because everything was sort of because you had the first half of 2005 and you had the last half of 2005.
And I'm thinking 2006 is when we did all those shows month by month. I fucked that up. It was 2006 that happened.
Now, what we ended up doing was we did the skating rink show. Shortly after that, you, me, and Mason, maybe was your dad there or Mason's dad?
Yeah.
I can't remember. But we recorded in the studio, and the representative of the Icing the Body Electric was there, and we played and recorded Rise of the Phoenix. That's the most nervous I've ever been in my life.
Oh, yeah.
My knees shook. I've never had that sort of nervousness where I cannot stand.
Yeah.
I've had anxiety. I've even had anxiety attacks, right? I've never had my legs wobbly like that. I'm playing my guitar going, oh my God, I can't mess up. Like, and I've never gotten that playing live. Never.
No.
And it's funny because I'm such an introverted person. Like, I don't like to go do things. I don't like to go out and hang out. I don't like to go and experience social activities.
You guys were talking about anxiety on Podcastrophe 01.
Yeah.
Which is a sidebar to this, I guess.
Yeah,
You said that
in a
that
way.
episode.
I think that's a good. I think that's a good like. Oh man, I had the word in my head a minute ago. Like you said, a side piece or a good like a added notation to get a further in depth, because you're getting in this show. I mean, we're going to cover everything.
Yeah.
Everything that we can. It doesn't matter how long we go. But with that, you get a little bit of a deeper like thought of sometimes, and even with the whole podcasting thing, which I don't know if we're going to go that mental with it here, but with the Asking the Body Electric thing, we got done, and it was such like okay, so I've never done drugs.
Okay, fair.
Okay, I've never been high.
Okay.
Other than what I've been prescribed or what I have had before surgery.
Okay.
That was the most high I've ever felt. Was that when we got done and we heard him in the mixing it in the studio? I was so ecstatic, because then you went into the vocal booth, did the vocals, and then the time was paid for, and we asked if we could record one more.
We recorded Lost.
Yeah, which we actually ended up re-recording when we went back.
Yep.
But it was that moment. It was that the Asking the Body Electric thing gave us the connection,
the confidence, maybe,
or the confidence. But then it gave us the connection with the DSP Studios.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the guy's name.
Steve Duckett.
Steve Duckett. Thank you. But he gave us our contact with him, and he goes, anytime you guys want to come back, come back. And we're like, we will. And I remember going back down there, and by this point, Tony had joined the band.
Yeah, he joined in April before we did the Icing the Body Electric show.
That was his show. Yes, that was his first show. And then did we go back down in May or June?
I think it was June, because we had the demo by Wireforks.
Okay. Because I started working on the 20th of June.
You know what? I think we recorded that week, because it was the week after you started work. Like that next weekend, maybe Saturday or something, we all went there. So it was something like that, because I remember you came over, Mason came over, and then we all went. We knew we didn't have to have drums. We just had to bring guitars.
I remember, yeah, like anytime you got the four of us in a car together, it was always like sheer hilarity.
Oh. 100% of the time.
Like, I'm pretty sure there's no reason why we should probably even be alive because of all the hijinks that were going on.
Oh, yeah.
But then we went back down with Tony, and by this point we had, was it 10 songs on that?
Yeah.
So what we had: Absolute Aggression,
Mm-hmm.
AA, which we later renamed it, Rise of the Phoenix,
Yep.
Wait No More,
Yep. Cacophony. Nightmare. Armageddon. Lost. Twisted Images.
That was on. Was that on the first one?
It was on the first one.
Oh, fuck.
Twisted Images.
I
There were
forgot
two
about Twisted
more.
Images.
Shit, it's really weird for me not to actually just like off the top of my head remember that. You keep talking, I can look it up. It's right here.
Well, I just remember writing those new songs. Like, Wait No More was almost like a different take on that was like our Skinnerd moment. The reason I say that, it was because it was basically like four chords with just continual like little guitar solo ditties over it. And the version that we recorded was a scaled down version, because I remember like the original version that we did ended up being like 12 minutes.
Yes, it was.
Something really long and drawn out, and then we like scaled it down to like 3 or 4 minutes.
Because we just kept repeating it over and over and over and over, and I would just play that boo doo 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 100,000 times because it was a hook, and I didn't understand the behind the scenes of music. And if you create the hook, you use it sparingly so people remember it, not through the whole fucking song.
And then we had the whole thing like the Nightmare song. Nightmare came to be because like did we get them all?
Okay, so we only did 9 tracks originally, but with the way that I did it in my library was the demos from In Theaters got put on.
Okay.
Incomplete Serenity, which was the opposite of Absolute Aggression.
Because that was supposed to be the opener of In Theaters, wasn't it?
And then we switched to Sparrow's Tale.
Right, and that was after I left.
Yeah,
but
we're getting there.
So I want to talk about Nightmare because Nightmare, to me, like that's my favorite version of Nightmare that we ever did.
Yeah, do you remember who co-wrote that song?
John Burt.
Yes, he did.
And really, it was like him on the keyboard. And I just love the different things going on in that song all at once.
Yeah.
Because you had Tony's picking, his clean picking of the guitar, my hitting that one chord all throughout that verse, and going into the like the ba na 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 na.
That was in later versions,
but no, like what I liked about it is that that one seems so much more like cerebral to me, because the version that we made later was much more of a rocking, metaled up version.
Yeah, for sure.
And I really like when I go back, and if I ever revisit stuff and I listen to that, but I listen to that version, it's just like it has like this weird. It's so much like we were doing stuff like that at that level. And it's like that's something that we never really looked back upon and to do again. And that sort of song.
Yeah. That
I really wish that we would have at like a later point, because I really feel like we could have like nailed it more.
Well, there's always time. We're both still on this earth. It doesn't mean we can never play music together again. I mean,
right.
Just saying.
Well, okay. So what we had is that we had that first one, and I still have the original disc.
Those cool ones we got from Walmart that had like the patterns on them already, and then we just like wrote on a fucking piece of paper the track listing and would walk up to people and just go, "Buy this for $10. This is our CD."
What, did we really charge $10?
Yeah.
Oh my
and people would go, "Okay," and Tony would take the $10, and then he went in that one day after we collected a lot of money. Do you remember what he did?
No.
Oh, you'll remember. He took $30 and he went to McDonald's and he bought 20 quarter pounders with cheese because they had a 2 for $3 on quarter pounders. So he dropped $30.
I do remember that. Oh my gosh.
I ate 5 in a row and was so sick the next day. Oh.
I remember. Our spoils of war.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh man, yeah. So we did that first demo, I guess you could call it, Rise. I think was what we ended up naming it. We did that, and then we did the Wire Fork show, which was in my hometown. They always have some sort of thing going on. It's gotten a lot smaller, unfortunately, throughout the years. But it was so cool because we had a pretty decent turnout of people who normally wouldn't come see us.
Yeah.
And I remember Jason was there.
That was weird.
He never said anything to me.
Really?
No.
Even to this day, you've never looked back upon that day with him.
No.
Wow.
Well, no. Well, what I mean is that day he never approached me. He never said anything.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked since then, and we even talked a little bit when we were getting the band back together a couple years later. But no, it was that was the first time that I had ever seen him outside of school, and then with the band thing. And so we did one other show after that.
We did.
It was at the Legion with a whole group of people.
That's right.
Because the band that ended up becoming the Trash City Rockers
played. That was that. Yes. That was.
And what band did they become after that?
Oh, What were they after Trash City?
Yeah,
Eric Cobra.
Eric Cobra.
Well, at least TJ is that, and he's one of those dudes in that band.
What's funny is that like the guy that was like my team leader at the time that we got back together later on, he knows TJ.
Weird.
Yeah, some of this weird, like, 7 degrees of separation,
And it was weird because TJ was a part of our first show back, which we'll get into.
Yeah, right.
Momentarily.
But yeah, that second show, that was the beginning of the end for me.
Yeah, because you had really started to dive into your job.
Well, here's the thing. I had no choice.
Well, correct.
I was at a different place in my life than you guys were.
I like how you said it on Podcastrophe. For those people that didn't listen to that episode, I think your exact words were, life hadn't slapped us in the face yet.
Yes.
And I think that's very well said because, yes, you had to grow up a little quicker than the rest of us, essentially.
Well, and I always thought I was, like, the more mature. And I've always kind of felt that, like, even amongst people that I've always been around, I've always felt like I can definitely be immature, but I've always felt like I've definitely, like, I don't know why, I don't know where that mindset comes from, but I've always felt like I was always like everyone's big brother.
Okay.
Just like I'm the guy that's got to, like, obey the rules because I know all you guys aren't going to. So, like, I've got to be the voice of some reason here, but. When it came to work, I just remember working those 12-hour days and 10-hour Saturdays, having to divide time in between work, band, and then girlfriend. Where's time for me? There is none. I'm being pulled this way by the band, this way by the girlfriend, and then by the neck
yourself.
by my job. Like saying, like, oh, okay, I literally cannot breathe if I don't go over here, so I got to do that for like 10 hours a day. And then whatever else happens after that is where that extra energy is divided. The problem is that I was, 18 at this point? I was going to turn 19 in September of 2005.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't ready for that.
No.
I was
none
not.
of us were.
I wasn't ready for it, and it really bummed me out. That was probably like my first real battle with depression was that summer. With how good everything was not going good for me. It was just very, like, I had to pull myself out of bed every day at 4:00 and then go. And then by the time I'd get back into bed, sometimes when I just worked, I would just fall into bed. I'd go home and go right to bed.
Yeah.
Like, there was a day that by the time I got home, showered at 8, it was time to go to bed again.
And you were just right back to it.
Yeah, and then that's the life and of course what I'm saying is that, like, and of course most people are going to be like, well, that's life, man. Well, guess what? That wasn't my life. I wasn't forced to get a job in high school. I worked lawn care. So I had limited seasons where I worked, and I did that in my own time. It didn't take forever. But when you have the emotional attachments to a girlfriend, and then also to a band, to your friends, and then you feel like you're letting them down. And then you just like, man, I can't do anything. Because then if I fail at this job, I'm letting my parents down.
Yeah, the pressures of an 18-year-old. It's weird.
Well, because then I'm making more money than I ever had any right making at that point. Blowing my money like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, I do believe. Yeah, I'm sure.
But then it was... I remember, like, you guys going, you never hang around anymore, man. I'm like, I can't. I got to go home. And literally, there wasn't that understanding from the band yet.
Yeah, and all the while, and I think this didn't start till, if I go back and look, I don't remember for the first writing session of In Theaters if you were there.
I was.
When we wrote Urban and
Yep.
Civis.
Yep.
Okay, so
I was
you
there for
were
that.
there. That's right.
Well, here's the thing, okay? Because there's something big that happens before that.
There is.
Yes.
Okay.
Something massive in between for our friendship.
Oh, is that when that happened?
Okay.
Because I thought that wasn't until much later.
No. It happened shortly after the show that we talked about that we had played, because that night, here's what happened. that week or that weekend before, I have a sit down talk with my girlfriend.
Okay.
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 She says she wants a break.
Okay.
She's got to get a job. Her pressure's on her for school. she can't afford time with a relationship right now.
Okay.
So what do you say to that? Okay. I mean, literally, a relationship cannot work without two people. So if someone says, literally, I don't have the energy for you right now, okay. I mean, it'll hurt, but you understand it.
Yeah, totally.
You know? And then so after I left that night, I left with the idea or with the notion of, well, maybe we can revisit this in a few months. And if it goes, it goes. If it doesn't, it doesn't, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, let's just keep it out there and then see what happens. And then that night, because she wasn't supposed to have anybody over that day, and I went over. She goes, "You're not supposed to be here, but we need to talk."
Uh-oh.
So we talked. Well, guess what? I wasn't the only person there that night.
I went there.
Yeah,
but I went there for I don't remember why.
It was her and her friend, and then John Burt and you.
Really?
Yeah.
I think
because they called John Burt God.
That's right. I do remember that. That was super weird. Super weird.
There's certain things like that I definitely don't forget because
your memory is very good.
All of this stuff got told to me by her other friend.
Interesting.
Because I became friends with her through the girlfriend, right?
Okay.
Right.
Oh, Liesel.
Yeah, Liesel.
Okay.
I like how I'm being like vague.
And then I'm totally not vague.
Throw the name out there.
Don't give a
fuck.
It's my podcast, whatever.
But yeah, she would tell me everything. Like literally, like she would like tell me like, hey, after you left, so and so came over and we hung out, and I'm like,
And see, I think that's where this was doomed from the jump back then, because the information that was being fed to me was not that information. You know what I'm saying? There was no, oh, you're not supposed to be here. It was, oh, hey, let's just all hang out. Okay, cool, whatever, we're hanging out. You know, and then
her parents were gone that night, and no one else was supposed to be there.
Yeah, but I want to say like a week later, I feel like it was a week later or something. She came to me and said that she was interested in me, and I was like, okay, cool, like you're nice. Didn't you just break up with Branden? Like that was the first thing I said, and she was like, yeah, because this whole job thing, blah, 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 but I like you, and I can't help that I like you, and we both work at McDonald's. I think she just started there, maybe?
Yeah.
Right? And my first, literally, and you'll recall this, I asked your permission, because I was not sure what the fuck to do as a human, as an 18-year-old human in that predicament. I was literally in a corner, because...
All right, let's put the phone on the other side here. Oh, hello? Yeah? All right. All right, so... That Saturday, Friday or Saturday, was the day that me and her split.
Okay.
Monday night, Tuesday morning, midnight.
Okay.
Technically Tuesday now. She calls me in the middle of the night crying.
Okay.
Not knowing, like, telling me she made a mistake.
Okay.
Well, it's like, what are you supposed to do? Like, listen.
Yeah.
Listen, talk to her. So we did. We talked, and I said, all right, well, what we need to do is talk in person. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I got to work all week, but this Saturday I have a show. It's that show we mentioned earlier.
Okay.
And like, we'll talk after the show.
Okay.
You know, I'll be around. She goes, okay, I'd like that. You know, I'm like, all right, you know, if you need anything, just, don't hesitate to call. I say and talk to her. And then I didn't go back to sleep. I was up and went to work and
did your thing.
Did all that thing. I was dead. I was dog tired. Thursday, she calls me again. Different attitude.
Cold.
Well, you were there.
Okay.
Because you were there every day that week.
Okay.
Talking to her dad. Because you were starting to form a friendship with him.
He kind of used me, though. Because he was having me help him do heavy house shit that no one else in that house was willing to do. Like including, and you'll be shocked, I don't know if you know this, but tying a tree to Dad's old Thunderbird to pull it out. That really happened, Brando. He convinced me that was a good idea, and that legit fucking happened.
Does your dad know about that?
He does now. He does now if he's listening. Like, unavoidable. But that really happened. Because they were like trying to fix that little house up because they wanted to sell it because they were going to move.
Right, and they did.
Yeah.
But so she on the phone with me that night or that evening because this time it was after work that she had called me. She asked me, "Who do you think would win in a fight between you and Nate?"
What? I'm sorry, that's hilarious. She asked you that. Why did you not call me first thing and be like, bro, what the fuck is she saying this weird shit for? Because then I would have been like, what the fuck are you trying to do?
So I was like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, that's...
So, cut to Saturday. We had the show. We're out talking.
You.
Me and her.
Okay.
Trying to figure out what the heck's going on here.
Okay, yeah.
I'm confused.
I would be too.
Her dad calls, doesn't hear music, or rushes there, all 3 blocks of it. I know. What to do. And then he's like, what is going on here? I thought this was done. And I'm like, I don't know. She called me crying.
Yeah.
And he said, you're mad at me at this point. You are pissed off at me.
I was.
Because you were over there networking with these other bands, and I was just over here dealing with my personal stuff.
Yeah, I do remember. I don't think I was really pissed off at you. I just felt left alone to do that kind of lifting, and we usually did that together.
Yeah, I remember just Tony like later on saying, "What was going on?" So I had some stuff to deal with. He goes, "Nate was not very happy with you." He goes. He was over there getting upset that you were over there with us, and you're over there just with her. I'm like, it was not just me hanging out with her. You got to understand that.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that.
It was a conversation that had to be had.
And so by the end of the night, I'm sitting, and this is near midnight now.
Okay.
How long I've been in town.
Yeah.
Because we played 8.
Yeah.
I'm sitting on her front steps. Her dad is outside walking around.
Okay.
Like, I don't know what he's doing. You call him.
Okay.
He goes, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" I'm just like, what in the world is going on here? And
I'm trying to remember why I would have even called him.
I don't know. But
it's so bizarre.
We addressed kind of where I was in my life and where she was. And we decided we'll pick it back up and we'll go from there, because I'm like, what do you want?
Yeah, it's in the ball's in her court.
Tell me, what do you want? Do you want this? Yes. Good. I do too.
Cool.
So what we're going to do is that we're going to try and work on this communication thing and try to figure it out, because at this point, we're not having good communication. If you're telling me that you're just too depressed lately, and I'm like, yeah, I know. And then I'm not enjoying my time with her or even with the band because I'm so tired all the time, and that I'm still coming to terms with my new adult life that I'm being thrusted into. So we decide, okay, cool. We'll link back up. And then Monday she called and broke up with me again. And then Tuesday is when I got the call from you.
So that is about the right time frame because I think to her, or at least from what she told me, because I don't think I saw you. I feel like the Monday after that, didn't your grandparents' house burn, or was that later?
No, that was way before.
But it was during the time you guys were together, right? That
was in February.
Okay. So it was later.
We had been together. That would have been our 1 month anniversary, and she was upset that I didn't come to school because my grandparents' house burned down.
I remember that.
And then you're like, his grandparents' house burned down. She goes, so.
I remember that too.
And
see, it's all just a doomed state, because what happened here at the time ended badly for me on multiple fronts. At the time ended badly for you on one front, but ultimately shifted your life to a whole better, different course, I would almost say.
Well, here's the thing is that I remember being at work, and I had this old Nokia cell phone, like the kind that you can't destroy.
Uh-huh.
You know.
Brick.
It was like the skinny brick. It was a skinnier version. Like all I had was Snake, and I couldn't send text messages, but I could receive them.
Okay.
Weird.
Yeah.
But I remember feeling my hip vibrate because I had a belt clip on it. Looking at it, I'm like, Nate's calling me. And the guy that we almost formed the band with, William, was working at this place with me at this time. He knew all about the situation.
Okay.
Me and him go back so far back, like third grade. So I told him everything from my point of view.
Yeah.
He goes, and I'm like, yeah, he left a message. He goes, go listen to it. I got your job covered. So I went to the bathroom and listened to it. And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on over there? What the fuck? He's over there every day.
I think it was weird because it was happenstance, you know.
Well,
I was a fixture in her life without even meaning to be.
And then so I come back and he goes, what do you want him? I said, he asked my permission to date Jacqueline. He goes, kick his ass. I'm like, not even worth it, dude. Not even worth it. And he goes, I'll kick his ass. I'm like, no. He goes, get in the car, we're going. I'm like, we're at work. He goes, after that. He was fired up. He's more fired up than I was. Honestly, I was sad.
Well, yeah.
I was sad. I was a mixture of emotions. I didn't react angrily. I was just like, what is going on? It's like me getting thrusted into this adult life has now fractured both other things I've had going on. Because I'm like, what the hell? It's like the girlfriend thing is one thing, but now the band thing is going to get affected by that as well. And because I'm like, I saw that as something that was going to happen. And I'm just like, what the hell? My whole world got turned upside down. And then I remember him just being so fired up, ready to kick somebody's ass. And I'm like, and that to me, William, if you ever hear this, thank you so much for being that kind of friend.
Yeah.
That you would just instantly rise up to go fight somebody else's battle for them.
No matter what.
No matter what. And I'm over here, and I'm the guy who got affected trying to tell you to back down, man. No. Not worth it, man. I don't know the whole story, you know. I just know this. And he goes, motherfucker, I'm going to kick his ass. And he's like throwing stuff, and like I'm like, calm down, man. He goes, you should be the one that's throwing stuff. I'm like, I might later.
If I'm in the mood, yeah.
I might later, but right now, let's just go back to work.
See, I think, like I said, it was weird because I became a fixture at that house, having very little to do with Jacqueline. Really, I was hanging out with her dad. Her mom was there, and then her two younger sisters, who, God, Cody was like, Dakota was
so young.
Fucking 8 months old, a year.
No,
maybe she was 2 or 3.
No, she was like 4.
Really?
Yeah, she was old enough.
I don't remember.
Yeah, dude, she was a little kid.
Okay, hold on. I can easily math this. 27, 18.
Carry the 2.
6. She would have been 6. Yeah, right about. For some reason, I felt like she was younger, but I digress. And like I said, I was helping with all these house projects or whatever, and Joe's, let's do this, and I'm trying to get this house sold. And I was like, cool.
How did you get linked up with Joe?
You know, I think that I feel like one time I think I gave, this was like maybe before you knew Jacqueline, I gave her a ride home once with Goebel and John and a whole bunch of people or something. Don't quote me on that. But I remember I met him that day, and he was super weird and fucking hilarious. You knew how he was, outspoken and redneck as fuck, and said what he said, and you know, did what he did. But he just seemed really friendly to me. So then,
really cool guy.
Maybe Jacqueline asked me like, "Hey, my dad's looking for somebody who needs help." Maybe the first time he paid me like $20, $15 or something. I don't really recall, but being a fixture there, I was there all the time. What was she seeing? A guy who was your age, there all the time. The thing she wanted. Apparently.
I guess so.
I don't think it really had much to do with me because her and I's short relationship dissolved really way more traumatically than your guys's did, you know, because she openly cheated and said, you know, and then moved on. And then later in life, like years later, tried to get me back and used me as a pawn against another one of my friends. So, and I don't know if you know the Goebel story, but that is a literal bag of fucked up. Because her and Goebel were dating. She calls me crying. Goebel's breaking up with me. Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, Goebel and I weren't on good terms at that time. Imagine. You know, such is life. But she invited me to her graduation. Sure, I'll go to your graduation. No big deal. Go as support. It's cool. Sit in the crowd. Behind her family, who sees me and immediately invites me to dinner because they remembered me from the few times that I had been around her when we were dating forever ago. So then I essentially invade her entire graduation celebration as just like this like old family friend, all the while Goebel is stewing and freaking out. And of course, they ended up happily married,
Yeah.
which is fucking weird.
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah,
You guys have been strong.
total congratulations to you two. But it was just like, and maybe this is something to do with her as a person, and maybe she was working through some shit where she used people for what she needed at that time, and it is what it is. But I think that we got pitted against each other without any knowledge that that could even happen.
Well, here's the thing: is that after that happened, I didn't come around for about a month. I didn't talk to you until then, and I had arranged for the first time that me and you were going to be around each other was going to be with Tony in the room. Do you remember that?
I do.
And it did not happen that way
No, Tony didn't show up.
for like 4 hours.
And it was just you and me in a house awkwardly on opposite sides of the room writing lyrics. And you were like writing lyrics how you wanted to kill me. Not really, but you know, like.
Well, I just sat there with the guitar, staring blankly forward, going, "Where the fuck is Tony? Where the?" And of course, he had come into some money,
Oh, yeah.
and then he was out shopping,
True play of for real.
and so he gets there, and it was a long time that we sat there in silence.
Oh, yeah.
And Tony can be. So what you guys been up to?
Awkward.
Oh, little of this, little of that. But that is what started the in theaters writing sessions. Because Mason was grounded at the time. Go figure. That happened a lot back then.
Well, he kept taking pot to school. Of course you're going to get in trouble. You get suspended from school, you're going to get in trouble from everything you're doing.
So, we got together when we wrote DraXsiS, we wrote Urban, we wrote 3 Days.
Yep.
And we wrote it with you on drums,
Yep.
Tony on guitar,
Yep.
me on vocal,
Yep.
writing lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
So weird.
Worked.
Not the way that like any of our other writing things I've ever had.
But some of our best work.
I agree.
I mean,
Agree.
really.
I'm still very, very proud of what I came up for 3 days.
Yeah, even though we changed it a little bit there after the fact.
But-
Sorry, not sorry. Made it easier to sing and play.
Whatever.
Whatever, it's cool.
But that lyrically, that's still one of my most favorite songs I've ever written. As far as it was also one of the most difficult.
You used a program for that, didn't you? Do you remember that? You had like some sort of program that let you hear words that rhymed with the words you were using.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah. Because then I would find them, and then I would try to find a phrase for something that would make sense.
Yeah.
And then use my vocal melody that I'm trying to write. And that helped out a lot because you're putting yourself and you're not writing songs from a personal perspective. You're writing songs about a movie, which was the concept for that demo.
Yeah.
It's hard. It is so hard to do.
I don't know why we got on that. Like, ultimately, I don't... you know what? I take that back. I do know why. Because Urban turned out so well.
Mm-hmm.
Because Urban Cowboy wasn't anything except for the music. And when we all talked about, like, why don't we write about Marv from Sin City? That's such a cool story. As soon as it was solidified that that was the concept, it was such a good song. I think we had no choice but to just go, like, why don't we just do the whole album that way?
Well, and we did one for, of course, 3 Days is The Crow, DraXsiS is The Punisher, Then we had Night of the Daywalker. Was Blade.
Sparrow's Tale, which was like a weird envisioning instrumental of the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, but the third movie hadn't yet come out. We were guessing it was going to be chaos, which it kind of was.
And that song came out after I left because I am left in the middle of this of that making because that was done during 2 different sessions, and I was there for the first one, and we actually did Incomplete Serenity. We did Cacophony 2. Which sounded a lot better in my head than when it came out. That is one of my most cringeworthy moments ever.
I think that song has a lot of potential. I think if the vocals got cleaned up a little bit, it would be perfect.
Well, here's the thing: is that like when I sang it, I got so nervous in the booth that I butchered it.
Well,
and I should have just let you sing it.
We were kids,
and so, but like it was such a personal song to me that I felt like I needed to sing it.
Can we talk about this one though on air together? Because this is part of the writing session you weren't a part of, but I feel like I need to bring it up briefly while Blaine is in the room so he can have a laugh too also as well. But can we talk about how we took a song that I didn't know was a Slayer song and turned it into a rap song? Yeah, so I'll give the backstory real quick. This is obviously after you left, which we haven't got to yet, but we'll get there eventually. Tony and I were downstairs writing, and Mason was on again, off again, not showing up to practices, but he had introduced us to this kid named Jesse. Jesse came around, and we were like, dude, this guy's really good. I don't have to sing. I'll let him sing. I don't have to sing. That's fucking cool. It's one less thing I have to worry about. I can get better at guitar. Jesse's like, dude, I got this idea for this great song. And so he's like, play something. So Tony, being Tony, whips out that bass line. Right? And then I start doing this like rappy fucking drum beat, And this dude starts rapping, and it sounds really fucking clever. And I'm like, wow, it's like a dark fucking take on some rap lyrics. This dude's fucking skilled as a motherfucker. So we carried on doing that song for months after this dude only maybe did like 3 practices with us.
You recorded it.
We recorded it. We added it to In Theaters. We released it. We were excited and sharing it with people. And it wasn't until years later when we were getting the band back together and I was trying to remember lyrics that I went, I wonder if I put the lyrics for Necrophobic up online somewhere, and went to search the first line and found Slayer as a whole entire treasure trove that this kid stole word for word from, line for line.
Interesting to note that was one of Mason's friends, and Mason did that exact same thing when he was giving us ideas for songs with "As I Am" from Dream Theater and "Save Me" from Damage Plan.
Yep. But while you were still in the band, looking at these songs here,
also,
question mark. You were part of that.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, because you did the dope solo for that, which is totally weird and noodly, but it's super. It fits the song.
completely improvised.
It fucking worked
because there's stuff in there that's like so out of tune.
Yeah. Now, there's a song on In Theaters that actually didn't have anything to do with the movie. It was Fallen Angel, which was our second instrumental on the CD. Mm-hmm. We wrote that as like a farewell to you.
Right.
When we played it live at your final show, / when we practiced it, sounded way cooler and totally fucking different than the shit that's on there. Because when we got to the studio for that specific session, our drummer at the time, who was there for this specific session, was fucked up and did not play anywhere near what we needed to play, and it shows. And this is again building to the dissolution of what we were.
So let's talk about my departure.
Yeah, let's get into it. We did a bunch of shows from January to April.
Yeah, okay, because me and Jacqueline breaking up, it's funny to think about it because when you think about, how hurt I was hurt in the moment on both fronts.
Yeah.
I was like, man, and I actually forced myself to see the two of you together. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Sweet Corn Festival?
And you know what's weird? That was the moment that set everything else in motion, right? Because isn't that when you met Kate for the first time because Liesl brought her?
No. I was supposed to be Liesl's date.
That's right.
Then everyone wanted to go back to Jacqueline's house, and I said, no. And then Jacqueline's like, why? What's wrong? I'm like, I looked at her and I'm like, what do you fucking think is wrong? Like, my best friend is holding hands with my ex-girlfriend circa 2 weeks ago.
That's what's wrong.
We were, like, naked in bed together.
Whoa.
3 weeks ago.
Holy shit. Damn. I didn't get that far with her in our relationship, so.
I'm just like, look, I'm fucked up right now.
I totally understand it more.
Like, I am fucked up. Like, this, I forced myself to do that because I wasn't willing to throw the band away.
Yeah.
Like, if this is going to be a thing, it's going to be a thing. But I'll be damned. This is not going to tear this band apart.
Yeah.
And it did.
No.
And here's the reason. And I'll tell you why. And that is because I washed my hands of it that night.
Yep.
I washed my hands of it. I cried my tears. I went home, blared the fuck out of Glorious Burden because I just got that record.
Awesome.
And I went home and I remember getting online and Lisa was on Yahoo Chat. She goes, thanks for leaving me. And I'm like, I'm not going back to her. She goes, I understand. I'm just now like the third wheel. Because Bert was dating the girl that he ended up marrying.
Oh, Stephanie. That's
and then
right.
you and Jacqueline were there, and you guys were like making out on the couches, and she's over there at the computer, forever alone. You know, just like it's like that meme. But I said, hey, I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And she goes, I do not blame you.
Yeah.
Like she goes, she's like, it's a fucked up situation. And I got really close with her during that time period, and then it was on October 1st that she said, hey, talk to this girl, she's bored. And that was Kate, and that was my wife.
Yeah.
And that was also the same day as our first band practice, and the first time that me and you sat together. It was either that day or it was in theater session day, because I ended up coming back and I stayed up all night talking to her.
Yeah. Bizarrely enough, I ended up dating Liesel too.
I know.
Which, how that, with all this knowledge that I'm getting now, how that ever happened or worked, I'm just very disturbed and confused. But I met Kate during that time too, because they were friends.
Yeah.
And Emily was another person.
Yep.
So it was weird because it was like, here again, I'm in that circle of people that you're in a different circle with. And I think though I dated her after you left.
Yes.
It was like October of 2006, which would have been after your departure.
Yeah, it was. Because me and Caitlin were dating on the New Year's Eve show.
Mm-hmm.
And see, here's the thing. Here's what led to me leaving the band. Me and you had shit to talk about, and I wasn't going to start that conversation.
Yeah. And I wasn't going to start that conversation because I didn't think I understood the level of things that were happening. Again, to me, it seemed very different. I was friends around this girl who broke up with my best friend and then who declared feelings for me. And then I was just like, well, if I ask him and he doesn't say no, then I don't think there's really a problem.
Well, there was a couple of messages that got exchanged via MySpace or Yahoo or
whatever it was.
Pre-Facebook, kids, pre-Facebook. And it was these few messages that really just made me not want to be around anymore. And you did apologize for the whole Jacqueline thing.
Yeah.
After what happened to you.
Yeah.
But only after it happened to you.
Well, because I figured it all made sense.
Right. But here I am going, buddy, if you were really sorry, you would have said it when we were alone. And I'm just like, if you can only say it over message, okay, whatever. I'm never going to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Until you can tell me in person. I'm just going to, okay, whatever, we'll go. And then because I was still distant, I was wanting to be distant for a reason. It's like, I got hurt. So I'm like,
keep your guard up.
Yeah, no, I'll be around. I'll play guitar. I'll hang out with the band, but not with Nate. And that was my mindset. Until this gets fixed, I'm not hanging out with Nate because I can't. Because I'm like, I don't know what his motives are. I don't know exactly where he's going or what he's doing because it just kind of seems like you're kind of drifting from one thing to another with and this is your personality. When you get into something, you're into it with your entire heart's content. You're here, and you're in it. And the moment it's over, and you have something else, boom, you're here, you're in it. So on the outside, it could come from like, wow, this guy just goes from one thing to the next very fast, and so he doesn't care. But that's not necessarily the case at all.
It's exactly what you said, though. And I can say that, and this is just a character fault of mine, that this is, no one's ever really talked about this, but with the drama that has happened in my family life, on my mother's side, all the behind-the-scenes stuff, and all the stuff that happened in my childhood on that same side leading up to who I am now, like a mixture of abandonment issues with, like, the realization that people can just fucking get up and walk away and never come back, and it's no dirt off their shoulder. And I started to get that way, like, well, if someone's gonna fucking be done with me, whatever's next is better than that.
Yeah.
Because as long as it's not that. And that's kind of where, at least when I would say probably until I was probably 20, 21, that was kind of who I was just a don't ever look back if you can help it.
Well, and there was another message that I got that was the deciding factor.
Okay.
Because me and you were not talking on a personal level, person to person. The only time that there would be anything exchanged, it would be in a band setting, in a group setting. And then there were, I want to say there were only 2 messages from you trying to do something, trying to make something out of this friendship. Uh-huh. And you were dating Trisha? Was that her name?
Yeah.
The girl from Pizza Hut?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you sent me a message, and this was after the free show in February. You remember the free show? It was our most attended show. During that first run of the band.
The St. Valentine's Day Massacre show at the Legion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was sometime after that.
Okay.
Because I left in April.
Yep.
And you had sent me a message basically asking me what's up. And I'm paraphrasing at this point because I don't remember the exact wording of it. It's gotten blurred throughout the years. Because, this is like 12 years ago at this point.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute, and we've already covered this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
When we got, back in touch with each other. But you sent me a message, and it was like, look. And I remember this word for word. Look, for all we know, what I did was the best. Because now you're with Kate, and I'm with Trisha, and everything's great. And I'm just like, you conceited motherfucker. That set me off.
I think that came from a place of, like, seeing the bright side of things.
Yeah.
Not trying to rub it in your face, which sounds like what it sounds like.
Buddy, when you read it, like, okay, because you know how when you say something in person, but you read it on text, you're like,
yeah,
that motherfucker. And they're like, no.
Yeah.
That's not what I meant.
Yeah.
And half the time when I like that me and you send each other voice clips.
Yeah.
Because it allows us to hear context.
Yes.
Instead of like you reading something and go, wow, he seems pissed off. I'm like, no, dude, I just said like, no, whatever.
The oops logo?
Yeah, that. Yeah.
You thought that I thought you were mad back, and I had like barely even woke up by the time I got both the messages.
I was a little mad. I'll be honest with you. Early in the morning, me was like, the fuck are you doing?
No, just trying to work on something.
I was also, dude, it's also like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm grumpy as fuck. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to Brandon. He hasn't had his coffee yet.
Do you drink coffee?
Only in the wintertime.
Only in the wintertime?
Yeah.
What the fuck have you been doing with your life? The summertime coffee drinks is the best.
Oh, dude, no, I can't do it.
I'll make coffee for you guys in the morning, then. That sounds like a plan.
Maybe. It's getting around that time, around the fall, winter time. I'll bring out the coffee maker.
Yeah.
I'll make me a cup of Joe or something like that.
Cup of Joe.
Anyway, back to the story. I got really offended by that.
I bet you did.
And so I said, all right, I'm done.
Yeah, and it's weird. I think we did the Day on the Gray show in March. Do you remember that? We played the basement show in March.
Yes.
Dating Trisha still. That's in the vein of all this, right? I was working at the factory with Tony at this point. No, that was next year. That was the next year.
I vaguely remember this. Was that the one where like we had a lot of people down there and it was
you played Guitar Hero upstairs and didn't save Crossroads.
Well, see, I thought that was New Year's.
No. I think
Because I remember New Year's playing some games and playing Guitar Hero and not saving it, and then going home and watching Advent Children for the first time. Weird thing that I remember exactly that.
Weird thing that you remember that, but no,
Because I
I
torrented
remember
it.
Day on the Gray because I blew my voice out during question mark. So bad that I was doing stand-up comedy in the kitchen at like 2 a.m. with my little sister who was dating Tony.
Oh
the
gosh,
time.
I remember that.
And
I remember that time.
and because my voice had been blown so bad, I sounded like Snake. So I was just reciting lines from Snake Eater because I had just finished beating it. You know, it's damn good. You know, but my voice was all jacked up, so it sounded more like David Hayter's Snake.
So I had a meeting with you guys telling you that I wanted to leave the band. Now the reasons why I gave are not necessarily false. They're not false at all.
Okay.
Me and Rob did want to go into radio.
That's true.
We never went to radio.
No, well, took the long way around.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's kind of what we're doing now. However, and that's going to be like a unique circle back later on. But the other part of it was I'm thinking like, all right, what am I going to be doing in a year? Am I still going to be playing with this band? Well, what's going to, like, if I'm still with Caitlin, what am I going to be doing?
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, I'm getting sick of working at that factory that I'm at. I'm like, I want to be closer to her because we're only essentially like weekend warriors at this point.
God, you were driving down and like going baller mode with your paychecks and like just doing whatever on the weekends with her. I remember because you guys had a lot of good times. Because I will say maybe you weren't necessarily saying them directly to me, but at practices you were talking about some of the adventures you guys had been on and things you'd done together.
Well, and it was a matter of like finding that happiness, and finding someone to do it with. I mean, I guess, I get it, but
now there's proof.
Crap, right? 10 years of practice.
Oh, well.
You're bound to hit the target at some point, even stormtroopers.
Just keep throwing darts at the board. One's the landing.
Wyatt. He's the bullseye. But I was thinking that if we're still together, I want to be closer, so I'm probably going to move. And I'm like, they're not going to like that.
Yeah, that probably at that time with me, that would have been a weird point of contention. I wouldn't have got that you could just drive over like an adult. Because I was not in that headspace.
Now, so I told you guys I was leaving. We did my last show. Tony got a cake.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was for me.
Yeah, you didn't eat it, did you?
No. Because he got a Misfit School cake made. Awesome cake.
Yeah.
I thought he got it for the people who came to the show.
No, it was April 22nd. It was your last show of 06. I finally remember. I remember that because...
so you finally remember.
I don't fondly remember you leaving the band.
No, I seem to remember some tears being shed that night.
I was not in the best place because I was losing my best friend and I realized it. It was too little too late. And I think that's a really interesting concept to be brought up now. I had a friend, Sarah and I's friend, came from Florida, and she's going to Michigan to stay with her family, is in the middle of some drama with her personal life. And her thing was, the reason she's in this predicament is because you can't undo the things that have already been done. And I think that's interesting to note that I was at a point at your last show where it was like, just let me take it back. Can I just undo the last 7 months and just see the path a little differently? Mm-hmm. And who knows, man? I mean, I don't genuinely know where we would be now if those things didn't transpire.
It took you some time for life to slap you in the face, to use that term again.
Well, yeah.
Because I still don't think I don't think you quite understood the magnitude of it. Because and I also don't think that you really knew how to communicate that.
Yeah.
Because of how you communicated it to me around the July 4th that year.
Okay.
I got another message from you.
Okay.
The last one.
Okay.
Until December of 07 or whatever it was.
Okay.
So this is July 06.
Uh-huh.
And I get a MySpace message from you.
Okay.
Saying, like, I understand leaving the band and everything, but you're not really acting like a really good friend. You're not hanging out. You're not coming around. You just wrote off. And I'm like, so now where I said before, I want to leave the band. I want to do some new ventures. I want to, I'm going to be moving maybe. I'm like, I left the band because of you.
Yeah.
Like, is that what it needs to be said? Do I need to just come out and say it? Do I need to write it on my forehead? Fuck off, Nate. At that point in my life, I was like, I'm done. I don't want to be around that kind of energy because it's not healthy for me. I'm experiencing so much positivity. Work had slowed down a lot by this point, guys, where I was working all those hours, 12, 10s. Now I'm getting done at work on Wednesday and not being back to work until the next Monday. Hurt the pocket. Great for social life. I'm just saying. Great for, like, I got me, because that was like the opposite. We had such a hard drilling schedule, so then I just got to hang out. I got to grow closer with Rob, and he became such a really good friend at a point where I lost a really good friend.
Yeah.
And so I didn't put my trust in a whole lot of people. He was it, and Caitlin was it. And she was still pretty early on in the relationship, too.
Yeah.
Even by the time I left the band. Like, she had broke up with me in like February.
Yeah.
For like 7 hours.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Like, it's funny because me and her laugh about it now.
Okay.
But she broke up with me because we had too many differences. We didn't like the same music.
Okay.
We didn't like some of the same movies.
Okay.
She hated wrestling.
Pretty much what your whole relationship has been hinged on.
All right, hold on. I'm not done yet.
do swiftly recall getting country music pounded into the back of my head at like 2:30 in the morning on a drive back from seeing Ice to Earth. So yes,
buddy, you learn to give and take. Okay, you learn to give and take.
Oh, trust me, I have now mastered the giving and the taking. That sounded wrong. but especially the giving. Yeah.
When I'm behind the wheel, I can listen to what I want. When she's behind the wheel, she can listen to what she wants. And then, in turn, if one of us says, "Hey, can we listen to something else?" Sure.
Yeah.
But mostly, it's whoever's driving has control of the radio. But she was also saying, like, we're going too fast. We're talking about marriage. You're talking about kids. I'm like, you're talking about marriage and kids. I'm over here going,
okay.
Not yet, but yeah, maybe one day. And then she wrote me this long letter, broke up with me, and by the end of the day, we were back together.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, exactly. But she only, and this is going to be funny later on too, but she only found out that I was leaving the band. She found out after you guys did. Rob knew way before.
Yeah.
Rob knew way before you guys knew. Rob might have known the day after you sent me that message.
Damn.
Because we saw each other every day. We worked together. And then at this point, we may have been carpooling. So, like, I shared a lot of stuff with him around that time. So, but, so I ended up leaving, and then the band slowly fell apart going into the fall of 2006. And then I moved over to Indiana in June of 2007 with Rob. Moved in with my now wife, Caitlin, and we got a place together. And then on my side of it, you and Tony had a falling out. And I found out all about that when he came over in November to hang out. And he spent like a day or two with me. And that's when I introduced him to Necrophobic. Because I found it as well. I was trying to show somebody else.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen to this bullshit they did when I left the band. like that was my opinion. I'm like, they got fucked up. And then I searched it. I'm like, oh really? So Slayer wrote a song called that too, huh? Listen to that and find the lyrics.
They're the same.
And
Holy
then Tony,
fuck, they're the same.
And Tony went, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He was like, of course, he said that, and then he starts laughing uncontrollably for the rest of the badass Slayer song. He goes, we ripped off a Slayer song
and didn't even know it.
and turned it into a rap song, and then proceeds to just uncontrollably laugh. He goes, "They would kill us."
Yeah, I still think it'd be the greatest thing to put online someday, like on YouTube, and just put it around like rap version of Necrophobic. Don't put the band name. I don't want to get death threats. But like, you know what I'm saying? Just like release.
I hung
it
out
or
with him.
something.
He told me what happened, and then it was just a few weeks later that you messaged me, and that just, huh?
Oh yeah, the
Exclusive.
Necrophobic will be the outro for this episode. It'll be the Patreon exclusive version.
So you messaged me just reaching out, saying that you wanted to get the band back together for a one-off
5-year.
5-year. Well, I guess in 08, the upcoming 08 would have been the 5-year.
Yep.
But you just said you wanted to reach out and try to get a farewell show and put a bow on that. And at this point, I messaged you back for the first time. Says I told you that just stay away from me. If I'm going to do that, we got some shit we got to talk about.
We talked.
For days.
And it pretty much just became Journey into Comics.
In a way.
Because it started as like mending those wounds. And
I had to.
A lot of apologizing and a lot of understanding and a lot of, like I said, just like being pitted against another person. And things kind of dissolved how they did. But in my mind, I had started this band with you guys, and if it was going to be done, it needed to be done on a high note.
Right, yeah, because the band sort of fizzled out there towards the end with the dissolution of friendships. And
Well, Mason met a girl and got her pregnant and left the band because of that. And now Tony and I are down to just being Tony and I, and we're best friends trying to write music together, and we don't have a drummer. And this is around the time we tried out the drummer from the mall that we randomly met, and Mackenzie and all these things. And it just wasn't clicking.
yeah,
Nothing we tried clicked. And I mean, we played all kinds of music, punk and rap type songs and fucking metal and all that. And it wasn't clicking. So when Mason left, it pretty much marked what I thought was the end of the band. But what happened was,
well, he left in the
October of 06.
so it kind of limped
Because
on
it
for
was-
a year.
It was our final Halloween show.
Yeah.
At that time. He left, and then there's this spot in the basement that just didn't have drums anymore.
Yeah.
My dad is just like, he's very, very, what's that word? Particular. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. But he had to have what was there again. It was like a piece of the house that had just gone missing. Weren't his drums ever. They were Mason's drums.
Right.
And he said, fuck it. I've got this credit card for Musician's Friend. I've already
Here we go.
bought everything else in the band. I'll just have some drums. And maybe my daughter will learn to play drums. Because I wasn't. I was playing guitar and trying to keep that going.
Funny.
It all works out in the end, doesn't it? It's so bizarre how that all worked. But
Right.
I just remember I wanted to have resolution, but I knew Mason wouldn't come back. So then what?
Well, we got Jason. We got a hold of Jason.
Yep.
And we had meetings with Jason early on. I remember like January, we had like meetings with him, and we went out to eat or met up somewhere and went talked. And then when me and you, it kind of fell apart for a little bit. And then Tony backed out of going to a concert. You remember this?
Yeah, he bought the tickets for Ice Earth's reunion show, their first show back.
With Matt Barlow, and it was up here in the region, over in Mokina, and I invited Tony, not as a knock towards anybody and anyone else of my friends. I asked Rob if he wanted to go, and we just went and saw Symphony X, and he goes, I don't really want to go to another show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, dude, go, whatever, don't go. And then I'm like, Tony got me into the band, so I'm like, it's got to be Tony.
Why not?
You know. And then he backed out because it was his girlfriend's birthday.
But he had already bought the tickets.
He hadn't paid me for them yet,
Oh, that's right. You had bought the tickets.
and he was going to pay me.
That's right.
And then he's like, hey, dude, I'll still pay you for the tickets, but I can't go. And then, of course, he would later on go on to regret that choice. He even notably said to me that he regretted that choice. But then you and Sarah ended up coming over and going, and all you had to do was pay for gas. I said, I got a ticket. He's paying me for it. And you're like, I'll pay the ticket. I'm like, it's covered. He said he's going to pay me. I trust Tony. And he did.
Yep.
Tony, of course, paid me the money. But all you had to do was fill our tank up and go up. And we flew up there at 90 miles per hour.
Fuck, she drove so fucking fast, Brando. That was just one of those. Sarah and I are in the back seat, just looking at each other, like, "Well, we go. This is where we're going. I guess we're together." Like,
at least they go first.
Like what? I mean, who knows? Maybe not. I don't know. Crazier things have happened. But
that show was a really cool reconnection point because think about it. We had talked on the phone. We had gotten over a lot of the issues that were plaguing our friendship, that ended our friendship.
Yeah.
And this was the first like in-person bonding session, I guess you could say, as far as friend goes, because we're seeing a band that we both like, a band that I love, one of my favorite bands of all time, and we're getting to experience this together. And then the next month, we spot each other at a wrestling show.
That was random.
That was not planned.
Nope.
It wasn't planned.
I didn't know you guys were going to be there.
We were like near front row, it was like second row. And you guys were up in the seats. And I think Caitlin saw you and Sarah. And was there somebody else with you guys?
I don't remember. I feel like maybe a couple more people were with us, but I don't particularly recall.
But we went to your house or went to your apartment afterwards, hung out, and that's what started the conversation. Let's try and get something going, and we got something going in September of 2008. It was the first because things
How
that
did you do that? We got it going in September of 2008, and you left in September of 10.
Yeah,
like exactly 2 years.
Yeah,
I didn't even notice that till right now.
I got a notification on this day thing that I posted. It was 6 years ago, saying that, hey, we're doing a show. Come out and hang out with us. It was my last show.
Oh.
It was the acoustic show, yeah.
Damn, the free acoustic show.
So we started like with the idea of getting the songs that we had written, select the best songs from each demo, and re-demo them, essentially.
Best of the worst.
Best of the worst. And so we did that. Jason came back for that. And like then Tony was coming back from his time in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, we need Tony. And at the time, you guys weren't on that level of friendship yet because of some dissolution thing that had happened near the end of the prior run.
And I think that I pretty much only really set one requisite for Tony to join the band because it was only the one thing that pissed me off about him. It was how he treated Sarah, which he knows, and we've since talked, and how he acted in public, which Sarah's fiery temper. Don't fuck with her because she will fuck you in the streets, And she did. And she was the only person in Hoopston at that time that had ever stood up to Tony Jenkins like that. And I guess my sister took her around to all the different places my sister had friends working, and she told people that Sarah stood up to Tony because it was this like apparently big deal. I didn't know. I was just pissed off and threw all this shit in the yard, or on the porch.
The thing with me is that I saw this as a really cathartic thing because me and you got back together. Now we're getting Jason back in on this, rectifying a wrong,
Mm-hmm. Tried to.
Yeah. And then I'm like, we got to do the same for Tony. Like, Tony's got to come back in this. I'm like, he was a part of it.
Yep.
He's a missing piece of this puzzle. And I said, if me and you can get over this, you and him could get over this.
And we did.
Exactly. And so, he came back around, and then for some reason the Jason thing didn't work out. And
do you remember? We had a whole practice with him where it was us showing him all the songs. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Got it. We'd play the songs a couple times. It didn't sound bad.
Yeah.
Actually. Sounded pretty cool with what we were going for. Okay. And then he would show up to practice and not know what we had already showed him at all. He didn't retain any of it. It's like he wasn't practicing through the week and didn't care to that much. I don't know if that's true. I don't want to claim that he didn't care. He might have too many things on his plate. Mm-hmm. But it just seemed like, come on, man, it's the second practice in a row. We have to reteach you the songs. We already spent 3 hours last practice teaching. And I think we tried that like 3 or 4 times, and finally it was just like, no, it's got to go back to how it was.
Okay, so was there any conversation with him? Did you have a conversation with him?
You know, he and I talked a little bit and have talked since all the shit went down, obviously. And, you know, even now in our more adult lives, he's messaged me from time to time. Just, hey, what's up? Hope you're well, you know, and whatnot. But I remember talking to him right when we decided that we wanted to bring him back. And I know one of the things I said was like, look, man, you started this, and it would be wrong of me to try to restart this without at least giving you an opportunity to be a part of that.
Yeah.
With how things ended.
Right.
And I think maybe emotionally he wanted it, but in reality he maybe didn't want it. I don't know. I genuinely don't know where he was there, because there was never... I think you actually were the one that told him, like, don't come back to practice.
No, I didn't.
Who was then?
I have no idea.
It's weird.
Because he just stopped showing up.
Maybe he just stopped showing up?
Okay, well, because here's what happened. Because we were going... this is at a point where I was coming over, and we were coming over early and starting at like 7 in the morning.
I remember.
Because we were doing recording, and we were doing...
Show.
Well, there was that, and there was the... Hey! What the matter with your head?
What was that on? I forgot.
That was Bob and Tom.
Oh,
the dude doing
that's
air
right.
bass, Jimmy
right.
Pardo. And I heard it in the morning, the day before going into work. I saw it that night on WGN, Bob and Tom. Then I switched the channel right after the show was over, and it was airing on another channel the whole show again. So I watched the whole show again. And then when I was driving over for the morning, it happened again. So that was in my head all day. And then by the end of the day, I had everybody doing the whole Redbone thing.
That's right.
And but I remember we had a discussion, and Jason hadn't shown up, and it was unanimous 3-1. So it's not unanimous.
Mostly unanimous. Who was the one
Me.
that didn't want to kick him out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or just basically tell him to, we're going to find something else for you to do.
Yeah.
Which is not the most...
I don't think we really ever settled or even discussed that he could have done something else in the band, because I think we both knew his stubbornness wouldn't allow him
and
to
he was
not.
a different person at this point.
That's
He
true.
really was. Because I had talked to him, and he had, that's when he had told me, he goes, and I told him like some of the things that we talked about already, about his stubbornness, about him not wanting to do a Megadeth song. He goes, dude, I'll do whatever. I don't care. I'm like, that entire thing had been dropped from his personality.
Yeah.
And so I just remember hearing that from you guys, and I was so upset. But this is a band, and that's how this shit works, right?
Yeah, and we got a better handle on it at this point in the game. At least we tried to.
Well, and then the thing was here is that this was a decision that I was dead set against. I'm like, I don't care how long I have to work with him. I will work with him until he gets it. And at this point, you guys had already said, no, we've already decided. So nothing I said changed anybody's minds. But I also understood the dynamic of the band mindset of, this is 3 votes against 1. It's out. It's done. It's over. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right, man, well, I'm going to have a long talk with him the next time he shows up.
And then he didn't.
He just never showed back up. And I don't know if that was him. I assume that you or somebody else had messaged him and talked to him about it. But me and him since then have never talked about that.
I don't think anybody messaged him. At least not to my recollection did I message him. I don't know what I would have even said.
I don't know either. But then, from that point on, we practiced and wrote and recorded until May of 2009 when we had our first show back. And then from there, it was gravy. We played shows. Your dad was on drums. We haven't mentioned that.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That drum set that he bought, he ended up learning how to play. And, played drums for us. And it was you and me on guitars, Tony on bass, which before, you remember when we would just switch off?
Yep.
We had 3 sets with which us rotating who was playing bass.
Yep.
And that was just like... if you go back to anybody that saw us back then, they were like, why did you guys do that?
Yeah, and I just think we didn't know what we wanted, and I think that we wanted to service everybody as a guitar player because Tony was a fucking great guitar player.
Well, also, I don't think any of us really wanted to play bass.
I didn't hate it, but I had worked really hard to learn how to play guitar, so it was like I don't really want to go back.
But when Tony got back, he was like, "I'll be the dedicated bass player," and dedicate himself to it, and he did.
He did.
100%. He became by and far maybe the most musically inclined person in the band, as far as like just dabbling into so many other musical styles and bringing that to what we were doing.
Totally.
He's such an amazing cat in that regards. He's done almost every single kind of music that you can think of, and attempted to do it, and has either done it well enough or excelled.
Yeah.
You put on one of his rap things, and it's rap,
But it's good.
but it's still rap. I mean, here's a white kid from nowhere, Illinois, putting out rap.
Yeah.
And then here's the same kid doing techno. Here's that same kid doing video game music. Here's that same kid
Electronic.
doing electronic, punk music, metal music, country.
Dude can shred on a guitar.
Dude, he's just so fucking talented.
Yeah.
And that was something that I always, had wished that he had just go to the big city. Go be a studio musician. Go get with these people, because to me, his talent is worth more than that.
Yeah.
It really is, Tony. And if you ever hear this, and I hope you do, please, buddy, go do something. Is he out west now or east?
East, yeah.
Dude, find something, man. Go. Chase that dream. Don't let that dream stop, because literally you are far too talented. And I would hate to see that not, because he has accomplished something. He's been on a major punk record.
Yep.
And he was featured on that, and he helped write stuff for that. That's an accomplishment. He is on a pressed CD.
Yep.
That's accomplishment.
It is.
You can get that on Spotify right now. You can go download that. I can't remember the name of it. Truant.
Yep.
That's it. Yeah. Dude, and his stuff is on there, and that's such an amazing accomplishment for him.
Fast forward a little bit here to May of 2010. So
EP of the Patriots.
EP of the Patriots, driving to a point where we are introduced to Dustin, who was just this kid, and he was like, "You should play my graduation party."
Yeah.
And then we played his and Chelsea's back-to-back weekends or back-to-back days.
I don't remember.
It was a lot, though, for us then, because I remember we were beat the fuck up after those two shows, because we had to bring the entire PA and everything, set everything up, make sure we have all the other bands booked properly or whatever we were doing at that time. Did I do Addicted to Chaos with those shows?
I think you did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
I did.
Yes, you did.
So I opened with the other band Addicted to Chaos that was strictly covers, and then we did DraXsiS.
Because you had dabbled and with another band that lost their singer at one of our shows.
No lies, yeah. They got into a fight during their set, and their drummer, I'll never forget it, jumped over his drums and had a broken drumstick to his lead singer's neck and said, "I'll kill you right here where you stand, motherfucker," in front of everybody. And it was like, oh, shit.
Yeah, the lead singer wasn't happy that his band was, one, opening, and two, no one was there yet.
Yeah.
So they were playing to just the other bands and like some of the other band's friends and family members, and he wasn't happy with that. Apparently, then he ended up leaving the band, and they
asked me if I would fill in, and I did fill in for one show, and it wasn't bad, but it was hard because I was doing all the work learning all their songs, and then I was like, "Can we just like learn one song that I really know really well so I can shine?" And they would not budge. They had a set that was their set. Leave it as their set. Played that one show at Robbins and Tilton with them, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah. We get introduced to Dustin, a killer guitar player.
Yeah, and it was just like he started being around for everything band-related. He was coming to some of our practices. He was going to shows if we had them. He, was inviting his friends to see us. So when September comes and we do it was actually our 30th show. At that time was your last show, which again numbers very strange, but I remember that. We played that show, and nothing seemed wrong with you, but I could just tell you were tired because you were having to make extreme sacrifices to do the band, and as much as you loved it, you were driving 2 hours a day with time changes. We do that now once in a while together, but do that on the regular. It's got to fuck with the
it
person.
was every weekend, and then on weekends that I work Saturday, we would get together Sunday. And then it would be the point of, on those weekends that I would work Saturdays, and we would come and practice on Sunday or record. I brought my wife a lot, and I got told, hey, don't bring your wife around anymore. And I'm like, dude, we wouldn't see each other or talk. That's not healthy for any relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is not happening, bar none. Will not happen. And it was just a matter of, well, I mean, she would just come and sit up there and practice anyway and just sit on her computer. But it got to a point with bought a house, a tsunami hit, so I was out of work. Not out of work, but less work, so less money. The money, and so then you have little money and a lot of miles. And it was also creative exhaustion because I wasn't getting my outlet.
None of us were. We wrote one new song.
And I was very frustrated by that.
Well, really, we wrote that goodbye song. That was
We
yours,
did, and then it got vetoed.
which was, I think I voted for it though, because I liked that song. If you remember, I enjoyed.
See, here's the thing: is I had a collection of songs that were written either in part or I had them all sort of put together. We all just had to put the pieces together and then refine it.
Yeah.
Which is what happened to Goodbye. I had all of these songs. I had all of these things from my life experience and these emotions that I went through the last couple of years, and I was so excited to get them out. Goodbye was so cathartic because Goodbye was essentially a dream that I had before all the things that went down between you and me and Jacqueline.
Yeah.
It happened before that.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That is crazy.
But literally, word for word in that song, that happened in my dream.
Yeah.
Like, that happened in my dream the night that me and her just talked about taking a break. And then so it was really weirdly prophetic. So writing that song, and then originally it was going to be originally Goodbye was called Dream Part 1. Because I was going to have a couple different versions, and it was only going to be like an interlude between songs. Dream was going to be told in 3 parts throughout the album as an interlude, and you would put all 3 parts together to get the story. And it was going to be like this really weird. It was going to be dreamy. It was going to be like all these weird effects, and you would get the story, and it was going to be this weird sort of thing. And the same. It's funny because I actually just listened to the original demo that I did for Dreams.
Oh.
And the original guitar chord that I was having for that was going to be the basis of it was very, instead of what it became the song, it was very slow. Dun 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 dun. Then the same chord, dun 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 dun, and it became so much more happier.
Yeah.
And the song sounded so happy and poppy, while the actual mood of the lyrics were like darker and like sad.
Yeah.
And it was like this weird dichotomy that worked for that song. And when that song came together, I was as happy as I'd ever been in that band, because I said, this is it. It's moving now. The cogs are moving. And then got the brakes put on it. And then we wrote that one new song, and it was all older songs and covers. And I was so tired of it. If you remember, a year before I left the band, we decided to start recording EP of the Patriots, which is going to include a reworked Nightmare, a reworked Snake, which was Home, another stolen song. The lyrics were stolen from a poem.
Yeah.
Then we reworked that for Best of the Worst to be Snake. So this is like the second recording of Snake. Reworked Shadows turned into Soldiers.
Oh, wow. I forgot that Shadows was even a song, but yes.
So another song that was an old song that we just remastered. We did an HD remastering of Shadows.
Yeah.
If you want to use modern day
Higher
terms.
quality lyrics.
Yeah. Shadows is now available in 4K digital. But then we did Manipulator, which is the only newer song that was on there. And then we had Tony. He did like an intro and outro for it, which was really cool. Really showcases some of his cool composing talent. I had a lot of fun making it, but the problem is that I wasn't into it. And I started up another project within that project to get me involved.
Unrehearsed. And as, again, we're just going to reference Podcastery real quick. that had to be really difficult for you because, as you said, you were only there some of the times. With Dad and I living in the house, Tony being in the same town, a lot of shit was getting done when you weren't there to film. And even with the cameras you had for me to film, I wasn't capturing everything how you would have liked it or how you would have wanted it or what your vision was overall. And it was like, but it's weird because all these little things that are happening within this story, right? The I don't want to use the H word, but that are swirling in this story right now are gearing towards where we are now.
Yes, and well, because I always wanted to dabble into video,
Yeah.
and do
Just
that.
didn't want to say hurricane for those.
Oh my! See,
Wondering what the
I wasn't
H word
even
was.
there. I wasn't even
Okay.
there. Hearts with you guys, man. But so just think about that. We're working on a new demo to put out to people, and I'm starting up a video project so I can be interested. That's not healthy.
No.
I mean, and that tells you that I'm there, but I'm not.
Yeah, and it was noticeable, but it wasn't noticeable in a bad way. And it was at this point where we were friends.
Yeah.
And I can come to you and be like, "Hey, man, I can tell."
Well, and here's the thing: is that my creative juices. I had so many songs that I had ready to go, and I just felt like there wasn't enough interest. And it got to a point where, like, the iron is hot. We need to strike on these songs now. And, like, I want to put out, like, yes, let's do the EP of the Patriots. But then let's have, like, a bunch of new songs in the background that we can come out with a full-fledged release after that. And we'll have the EP of the Patriots songs with these new songs. And then when things just kept not coming to, and it took so long, and it got to the point where then we did the acoustic. When I'm driving back home, thinking about what I could be doing instead of this, that's what it started getting into my head, that I probably should not be coming over here every weekend to do this. But then there was also another moment, so I've already had the thought swirling in my head, like, man, do I really just not want to be in the band right now? And then, obviously the answer is yes. But I am not, quote, not leaving them high and dry. I'm not going to leave them without a guitar player. I'm still going to come over as long as they need me.
Yeah.
So I hadn't said anything yet until the proposal to add Dustin to the band as a third guitarist, which I was against.
Yeah.
I was dead set against a third guitar player. I didn't want that to mess with the dynamic. I didn't want that to mess with the ebb and flow of us. I felt like even though I was unhappy creatively with what we were doing, we still had a flow.
Mm-hmm.
We got in there, we did our thing, we bullshitted, but we all of us, we were in that mode. We had practiced so much and played so much. We didn't have to do that whole thing when you're first starting off, where you're like really trying to listen to each other. It was feel. Yeah. And I feel like having him as another cog in the whole thing was going to start that all over again. And maybe it wouldn't have. Maybe it would have felt right in and it would have gelled. But I'm like, I don't want to add another guitar player.
Well, we got a taste of that, though. Except for I didn't play guitar.
Well.
Moving into the future of the band a little bit there. At some point, we'll talk about it.
But and if like, and that's just the thing, is I was not interested in having a 3-guitar dynamic thing. Because I was already like, man, if I'm already this frustrated creatively, and we're adding another guitar player, what are we doing? What's our focus? Where are we going? Because to me, for us, I felt nothing but this: spinning tires. And then, but there was no mudslinging. There was no negativity. I was just unhappy.
Yeah.
And so I talked to somebody, Rob. He's not my roommate. He wasn't my roommate anymore at this point. And he goes, and this is how me and him are. He comes up to me and goes, "What's up?" And I'm like, thinking about leaving the band. What? Yeah. What happened? And I laid it out. And he goes, "Shit." He goes, "Well, I hope it works out." I'm like, for them, I hope so. And so I think I'd messaged you, and I said, we need to talk about my future in the band. And you were like, what? Call on the phone, and instantly. And I kind of told you what was up and said, I want to have a talk with you guys, and I want to let you guys know what's going on. I don't want to close the book, okay? But I kind of was closing the book.
Yeah.
I did want to say that, because I didn't want to, because you never say never, really. The reason why I didn't want to say it was because it wasn't from a place of negativity. It wasn't from a place of like real angst or anger towards anybody in the band.
No,
nobody. And I didn't want there to be that sort of stigma. And I wanted there to be hey, we need Branden for a show. You guys could have called me, and I would have came, and I would have played. If you said I can't play, I broke my hand. Guess what? I'd have been playing shows with you until you're ready to play. That's where my mindset was.
Yeah.
That never happened, but that's where I was stepping back. And Caitlin didn't know.
Wow.
I told her when we got 5 miles out of Hoopston. On the way over for that meeting. She thought we were coming over for band practice. I'm like, so what do you want to do tonight? She goes, what? I said, when we get back home. She goes, well, it's going to be late. I'm like, might not be.
Yeah.
She goes, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm quitting the band. She goes, when? When we get there. She goes, hold up. What? And then so we had that conversation right before we got there.
Wow.
Here's the thing. When I left the band the first time, and I'd heard this rigmarole, I never heard it from you. I never heard it from anybody in the band. So I don't know if it, or maybe I might have heard it from Tony, but I don't know if it was conjecture. I don't know if it was just thoughts of like, where's Branden's head at, that Caitlin might have influenced my leaving the band the first time.
I think that I influenced you leaving the band the first time, if we're being like quite honest. I think that you had found somebody that made you happy.
Well, see, here's the thing is that the first time, she had nothing to do with it. Like the whole thing of me moving over there, that was a back of the mind type thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know if we were going to be together in a year.
Yeah.
She just broke up with me 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Over music or whatever.
Unbeknownst to me on that one though.
I saw a message from somebody, a message to the band's MySpace page, as a message to me, saying, and it was Chris, Stalker.
Oh, okay.
Don't let her get in between you and the band. And I'm like, where's he getting this?
Weird.
And I didn't know, and I know you guys had jammed with him, so I didn't know if that's something you guys had talked about. And so I'm like, that's not what's going on. In my head, I didn't message this to him at all. I'm like, that's not what's going on, but thanks for your
concern.
And thanks for your concern. But this time, I wanted there to be absolutely no doubt. 100%. She has no influence on this.
Yeah, she didn't even know.
No, she had no idea until we got there. Literally, we were almost rolling into Hoopston before she even found out. And I wanted there to be no doubt. And there's nothing, because there's always that thought of like, man, is the significant other pulling the strings here? Who's in charge? Me and her don't have that kind of relationship. She jokes around.
Yeah.
And it pisses me off sometimes because I'm just like, will you stop?
That's just how you guys are, though. I
feel like she's like the Bobby Heenan to buy like Gorilla Monsoon.
Yeah, that's fair.
Where like when she jokes off and she makes these jokes and makes me look bad, and I'm just like, really?
Damn.
No, I'm gonna remember that. I'm gonna do that shit to you. I never do, but I wanted her to have no influence on my decision. Like the only person I ever asked any opinion was Rob.
Yeah.
And I said, "What do you think I should do?" And he goes, "Well, if you don't want to be three guitar players, and if he's there, it's perfect." I'm like, "I know." I'm like, I've been thinking about leaving the band for months, like on my way back.
It was weird because on the flip side, you just said that you sent the message that we need to talk about your future. And when I said, "Hold up, I gotta call you," I remember looking at Dad and I was like, "Dad, I think Branden's like gonna leave that band or something." Like I wasn't really prepared for what the conversation was gonna be, but I kind of had a general idea of where your headspace was, and I can understand it because after you left the band in 2010, for 4 more years we carried on with that rhetoric of trying to write music and play music together and not writing a goddamn thing. Not one song was made. Every idea was shot down from every direction. Dustin had an idea, Dad didn't like it. If Dad had an idea, I didn't like it. If I had an idea, Dad probably didn't like it, or whatever. And it just spinning the tires. And Tony wasn't wanting to contribute because his big argument was, well, I already wrote a whole album for you guys. What more do you want? I wrote in theaters.
Right.
What more do you want from me? I gave that to you. And it was like, fuck, man, if you would just bring it together, I think we could write some really special stuff. And we could have when you were still a part of the band as well. So you left. And then eventually I moved up here. We got the casino gig happening. I'm miserable. Just fucking miserable.
I remember you messaging me while you were still in the band and having to drive down there every weekend going, I don't know how the fuck you did it, brother.
No, I didn't. I totally, and actually I remember one of the times I messaged you, I sent you a picture of my Zune because it was on random and Morphogenesis came on. And I was like, that's our jam, motherfucker, right there. You know, I remember that. But so that carried on for a bit and we played like what is now the final show. It is, I mean, I don't unless you and I do something, the band that was can never be. Dad's health condition, where we are in our lives now, things are definitely changing and have changed. But being that I had lost my musical voice, I needed something else. And I found podcasting. Unbeknownst to me, Brando, we've had the fucking ancient one the whole time, our oldest known caster of potting. The ancient one.
OG of 07.
OG of 07 with his
King of shout-outs.
The shout-out cast.
Love you.
Yeah.
Really cool.
But, dude.
See you next week.
It's crazy because he was doing it 7 years before I even knew what a podcast was.
See, I wanted to go in the radio with Rob, and basically we wanted to have a radio show together.
Yeah.
But, like, the more we got into it, the more we looked into it, we're like, yeah, that's not going to happen. And then... yeah, you got into podcasting. I got into podcasting 2012, 2013.
So you were listening before I even knew what a podcast really was. I
Yes.
heard the term many times.
Well, and what got me into it was the Steve Austin show. Because here's Stone Cold doing a podcast.
Being stone cold.
And, well, no, he's not really being Stone Cold. He's being like Steve.
Oh, yeah.
And really, there's not a lot of difference, but there is.
Yeah.
He's so much more chill. He's such a funny son of a bitch too.
Yeah.
But to hear him just like he's a guy that you don't expect that would just sit there in front of a microphone and talk. Like he's a guy that you expect to be out there loud as can be, doing all whatever, and now he's just chill back with the microphone shooting his shit off his brain. And so I'm like, okay, cool. And I start looking for other shows. And then I start realizing, wow, there's a show for literally everything. And I got into the All Gen Gamers podcast, which was a podcast about collecting video games and talking about video games.
I wonder where your interest was sparked.
Well, I had just started getting into retro games at that time as far as like stuff I wanted to buy. So I listened to their entire show. I was getting into some other shows at the time. And I said, I want to do this. I can do that. I want to talk about video games. And I looked into how much it was going to cost to host, stuff I needed, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oof, man, maybe for Christmas bonus. And it didn't happen. And then it was in January, you posted the first episode of Journey into Comics.
Yeah.
And I listened to it. I'm like, oh, wow, Nate's podcasting. Bastard beat me to it. Shake my fist. I wonder how he did it. So that's when I looked into Podbean, saw how much it was. And I'm like, maybe I can start doing this soon once I find somebody to be on the show with. So it was then that I messaged you because you asked for questions. So I messaged you a question about the Walking Dead comic. And you answered on like episode 4.
Okay, probably.
In May or something.
That would have been the Gojira monologue.
Yeah. This is not the Attack of the Yawns. That's later.
Oh, it's coming.
Well, we were going to do it before,
Rogue Yawn.
Well, we were going to do JIC also today. It was probably going to be later at this point.
If it's later, it'll be funnier. It'll be slap happy. It'll be great.
Attack of the Yawns.
Yeah, Attack of the Yawns.
Anyway, so you invited me onto the show because you ended up just messaging me, and we ended up catching up again after a few years. And you're like, hey, you should come on, and we should talk about old times and talk about some stuff. And we did, and that was the first few episodes of Journey to Comics. And then you're like, you should stay, be my co-host, help me out with this thing.
I don't think, okay, it's weird. I was just actually talking to Veronica about this, and I want to, without saying too many things on air, say just enough for you to get where I'm coming from. But so many things in my life have happened because of you in a good way. even in the bad things, in a good way, it has led me where I am now as a person. So
Right.
I have to be like eternally grateful for you as a person. But you were not my first pick as co-host,
I know you weren't.
and it works out.
I know I wasn't. Yeah, I'm sorry. Completely just said I know you weren't, but what am I?
I didn't catch it, and then you said that, and I was like, oh wait, he said something. Okay, but Patrick was my first pick.
Yeah.
And I talked to him. And he's like, dude, I'll do it. Yeah, absolutely cool. Just tell me a time. And I was like trying to get things lined up with him. And even to show a gesture of like, I'm seriously dedicated to you being my co-host because I knew it was out of his ordinary and out of his bubble, I fucking went out of my way and made a painting for him. And I went over to his house, presented it to him. It was like actually the last time I've ever seen him in person. Not the last time I've talked to him, obviously, but the last time I've seen him in person. And it didn't work out. And your gaming and collecting knowledge and everything leads me to another person in my life who is now a staple part of my life, and Veronica.
Yes.
And now we have this band and all this crazy stuff. That's what we're doing tonight, which is going to be super awesome. I'm excited that you guys are both here for that. But as far as the podcast goes, I had no idea what I was doing. I'd only listened to Josh Figures It Out like the first 2 episodes or 3 episodes when I recorded episode 1. I had no idea what a podcast even fucking meant. I didn't know that I should maybe think about having an intro. I should maybe think about having segments. I should maybe think about talking more than just about my conceited ass self.
I remember one of your first intros was you shuffling around the papers. That is so quiet you can't hear it.
Well, yeah, because I recorded it and it looked like the waves were big, but I, again, was not really good with the equipment I was using.
Yeah.
And fucked it up. And you can't really hear it. But it was the whole thing was it had been so long since I podcasted. Why not joke that I forgot what I was fucking even doing and that Journey into Comics was some fucking thing that never happened.
Yeah.
Which I was gonna, if it would have been translated on that first one better, I would have carried that joke a little further into the life of the podcast. Of course, everything changes. 3 months later, Pringles starts a different change in the comics. And then eventually, after the 4th episode, I finally was like, I need a guest. And then I was talking to you already, and it was like, you know where the fuck I live. You know where my dad's house is. Come be a guest. And then, boom, a fucking deer hits your wife's car, and it literally put us on this path.
It did, because then we figured out how to use Skype with
Goddamn right.
with your setup that you were using. And then since we figured that out, then you're like, you could be on every week, or every other week. And so that carried on. And then I stayed on, and I became co-host. And
October of 14, you know what you said to me? October's like our month, bro, because the band had started in October, you know. We should do a show once a week just in the month of October.
It was going to be like our sweeps week, yeah.
We pretty much didn't stop that on the other side of starting that. There's been times where we've had chunks where we were absent, mostly my fault, but when we were absent,
Yeah, no, from that weekly change, that's when we came up with the solo cast idea.
Yep.
To give each other a week off, but still put out content every week. And then from that spawned
Sort of Live.
The Sort of Live concept. And then that also spawned the Game Addicts podcast, which I always say that's the show that I've always wanted to do. But I didn't know what show I wanted to do back when I wanted to try and do a gaming show. Like the knowledge and the know-how and the what's the word I'm looking for? Me being comfortable with podcasting allowed me to be able to do that show.
Yeah.
And has allowed me to try and shape that show into what it is and what it's going to become. And so I'm so happy for that, because you know, Sarah and Josh helped open you a door to help you get a voice out there.
Yep.
Then you gave me a voice here, which has allowed me to create another platform for another voice, and then we've done that for other people.
Yeah, and I think that's been like a thing that changed in my life, from being in a band with you musically to doing podcasting now. Is like in the band, it was us trying to forge our own path, and it was only us against the world, even if it was against each other, you know, kind of thing, if that makes any sense. And now it's just like, Blaine Ketch, now you're a podcaster. And,
look, he almost fumbled.
And then now you catch, and you're a podcaster. And now fucking Veronica catch, and she's a podcaster. And now all these people who maybe would never have thought to do it or knew they had it in them have done this. And it wasn't my intent, but it's something I'm really happy to give to people.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to just talk. I mean, and it's really funny. I feel like we've done the prequel episode to Journey into Comics, the podcast series today, because now everything else we could talk about, just listen to Journey into Comics and you'll get the story.
Like, yeah, this was like the big, long setup, because then if you listen to from episode 1 of Journey into Comics all the way until episode 151, it's the growth. It's the path. And you know what? Something I actually, and this is Brando riffing.
Sure. Riff, my brother.
You talked about on the last Foodies Watching Movies episode of us having lost episodes.
Yeah.
I want to put those on Patreon.
Somewhere, yeah, we should.
I want to.
Oh, all the backlog?
Yeah. The episodes that are only available on YouTube that don't get a lot of traction over there, let's put them on the Patreon and maybe even make them free.
Ooh.
For everybody to come in and they say, oh, here's stuff. And here's the backlogs, the lost episodes. And
We'll do a whole lost episode series.
Maybe, yeah.
I love it. We can totally riff like this. See, that's how great Brandon and I are. We're on Voice of Survival podcast, riffing about our network on the fly because we're co-executive vice presidents.
Co-executive president, vice president.
Vice president.
PVPs.
Yeah. It's weird because I don't feel like I can ask you any more questions because...
Was this even a real question and thing, or did we just sit here and talk about our past for...
I mean, we there were some questions within there because there were some things I wanted to know, like where musically it started for you and stuff, and without me having to ask, you told me where podcasting started.
Well, and that, I guess that's because I kind of shared that a little bit before on our show as well as on the Podcastrophe episode 1 that you guys can go check out with me on there with Dick.
Also, if you're a Game of Thrones fan, you have to listen to episode 2 of Podcastrophe.
But we threw down some Game of Thrones.
It was fucking incredible. You guys are so knowledgeable. It made me want to be more knowledgeable, so much so that I started watching. You guys are going to turn this into my Wikipediaing things. I've been YouTubing like the history of Game of Thrones, watching the Battle of Trident and watching Robert's Rebellion like played out on a fucking map that people are just showing you the pieces moving. Like, here's where the fucking battles happen.
And he was there in the background the whole time.
Aerys is there, and Brandon Stark could have married Ned Stark's wife but didn't. And then you got the fucking fuckers, the Tyrell from Highgarden, fucking bastard, and Tywin Lannister's just Sweden. He really was Sweden. When Aerys was king, Tywin Lannister was like, I'm not on either side. And then when he realized who was going to win, he's like, I'm going to go help kill the king. And literally bombarded King's Landing.
Well, he was hand the king.
Well, but he quit. And then Jaime got on the Royal King's Guard. And then Jaime became such a close guard to the Mad King that he actually, in turn, killed the Mad King after he found out the Mad King's orders was to burn the whole city down. Because the Lannister forces had invaded and were...
And he's like, kill all your forces and also your dad. Yeah.
Yep.
You know, Jaime always seems to see the light near the end.
I love how we just tangented just for just a little bit of Journey into Comics news type talk for a second. We'll get into this more later, but honestly, Brando, thank you so much for being my third official guest for the Voice of Survival podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I felt like it was it wasn't even a necessity. It was like a must.
Well, here's the thing is that we've alluded in Journey into Comics here and there, sprinkled in throughout the entire series of our past, of us being in a band, of us having issues, of us starting podcasting.
History.
Yeah, of our history together. And this episode it's the explanation of that. This page, or this episode is the Wikipedia page for that.
I like that, yeah.
For all the things that we have mentioned, because whenever we mention it, it's never the time and place to dive completely into that, and it's hard to dive completely into me leaving the band, us restarting it, us having personal problems without the extra context.
Correct,
and that just wastes so much time.
We couldn't have made it a metal cast because if Blaine's on a metal cast, he doesn't want to sit and talk or not. Well, this would have been metal cast if he would have not spoke. Silent dick. That sounds like some sort of ghost sex.
Well, I mean, I'm very happy to have done this episode because it's an episode that I agree it needed to get done and things needed to get said, and of course there's always things that we didn't dive in completely on.
Yeah, but that's good because now you can be a future guest and we can talk about other things.
Yeah,
nerdy things, different things, wrestling things. We haven't dove into like our wrestling history together, like full blown.
No,
but that's okay. Soon we're gonna record another Journey into Wrestling. I think
soon
this week.
Yeah, I think it's later on.
No, isn't it supposed to come out Wednesday? Because Foodie's just dropped.
You know what? No, it is not.
Because we're taking the little extended break to come back on the other side of the next pay-per-view.
Yeah, the next GIW is slated to come out on the 20th because we're recording it on the 15th because we're waiting until after the 10th this weekend, which is the first pay-per-view after SummerSlam.
Bingo. Great talk. All right,
I think
folks.
we need to end it on that. We can't go any further.
Yeah,
Great talk.
No, that was awesome. Again, I'll just say it again. Thank you so much for coming on. As always, folks, you can check the Voice of Survival out on all the different social media outlets. Voice of Survival Podcast on Facebook, Voice of Survival on Twitter, the Voice of Survival Podcast on Instagram. As always, check out the Journey into Comics Patreon with exclusive content. There you're going to find bonus content, exclusive content, early access to every podcast, including Journey into Comics, Game Addicts Podcast, Foodies Watching Movies, Journey into Wrestling, Podcast Review, the Voice of Survival Podcast, Poor Report, and Butt Stuff. That's all 8 shows. You get early access for $1. $3 gives you exclusive content like the Comic Club Brando and I just did. Plus, I'm probably going to be doing the Incepticast look back at some point real soon for a bonus episode to go up there for any of you who want it. Thanks to everybody who is a patron right now. We really appreciate your patronage. It's helping us to live our dreams and just to be able to have a little less of a burden monetarily speaking. But that's going to do it for this week of the Voice of Survival podcast. This was episode 3 with Branden Stone. Again, thanks. I've been Nate.
And I've been Brando.
And this is the Voice of Survival. Signing out.